We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is Mark Alyn, the media-savvy Mark Alyn, who spent many years working for National Public Radio, who has his own syndicated radio shows, and Mark's very much involved with wellness ideas. Mark Alyn, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Hey, Josh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Happy to have you here. And what stations are you on right now?
Well, I hope I remember them all. Our flagship is KABC in Southern California. Mm-hmm. We're on KTHO in Lake Tahoe. We are on WMEL in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Hello, John Harper.
Hey.
Hey. And Daryl Wayne, my partner, who owns KTHO. We're also in Ventura. We're in Santa Maria. And Albuquerque. Albuquerque. Yes, Albuquerque.
And what about WOMB, the Voice of Labor from Chicago?
I wish we were.
It's an old joke. Thank you
It
very
is.
much.
It is.
And you've been involved with wellness now for a while, just because I guess it's a subject you found it just makes sense to you.
I've been in the media for a lot of years. Yeah. Okay.
You did 7 years at NPR?
I did 6.5, almost 7 years working for NPR in Southern California when NPR first started, and that was in the early 70s. I worked for Sam Phillips, and we talked about health. I talked about alternative of health. I talked about traditional health, and that's what we do at Late Night Health today.
Sure.
And the genesis of that show, if you want, which is my current passion, if you will, began when I was my mom's primary caregiver before she passed away.
And now we've been chatting before this broadcast, and if you don't mind, if you could go over some of that discussion about your mom's health crises and how it to some extent changed your opinion about things.
Well, my mother was a member of an HMO. I actually grew up in the HMO, and I'll mention it. It's Kaiser. I think the Kaiser outline, if you will, is really quite good. However, the implementation, just as the Affordable Care Act has run into some hiccups, there's always hiccups. We're people, we make mistakes. But you don't make big mistakes with people. And what happened with my mother, she was complaining of a stomachache, and it kept getting worse. And they kept doing tests and nothing. My mother was not one for alternative health. I did offer that. And finally, she was in such pain, she said, "Mark, you got to help me. Do something." And I called the customer service line at Kaiser, and I told them what was going to happen. And if it wasn't, I'd just take my mom someplace else and send them the bill. I was very forceful, but nice. I don't yell. I'm not a screamer or a yeller. And they gave me...
what years are we talking now? What years?
This is about 9.5 years ago.
So it's like 2001 or so, 2002?
Yes. My mom passed away in 2002, so 2000, 2001. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I brought my mother in, and in less than 2 minutes, a new doctor, because I didn't want to have her seen by the same internist, said, "Your mother's got a perforated colon. I would bet on it." Well, why didn't they catch that? For a month, they tried to treat it with antibiotics, and they ended up having to give her a colostomy bag. She was instantly better. They told her that within a year, they'd take it down.
Taking it down means removing the colostomy
Removing
bag.
it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sew her back up and she'd be fine.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. She was so excited about that. After they took it down, she ran into all kinds of complications. MRSA, I don't know if it was MRSA, but she had infections. All this time, I'm thinking, why? There were mistakes made, and I was furious.
Oh,
This
it's your mom,
was
sure.
my mommy.
Right, it's your mom.
I mean,
right, right.
the bottom line is that she did get better eventually. She lived through the rest of her life with the bag.
So in other words, the surgery to remove the bag turned out to be flawed. She
Absolutely.
got terrible infection. They had to put the bag back in to save
Right.
her life.
Right, and it affected her in a number of ways. I mean, personality-wise, it affected her. Pain-wise, she developed a diabetes that she did not have before.
Was
It
that
made
from
me
the
start-
antibiotic overuse?
I think
Hard
it
to
was.
know, really, but-
I think it was because for 2.5 months she couldn't eat, and they were giving her sugar to live.
Oh, God. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've got to tell you, there's some doctors there that are outstanding, but you find that in, I know bad chiropractors, I know good chiropractors,
Right.
and what may be good for you may not be good for me.
Right.
It led me to begin to think. And then 2 years ago, I woke up, and here's the camera. My back was like this, ladies and gentlemen. I woke up at a 90-degree angle, and I went to my chiropractor, and he popped me and treated me, and I
You
was
felt
fine.
a little better.
I
Okay.
felt a little bit better.
Yeah, right.
He said, "You'll need to come back." A couple days later, before I was coming back, I woke up, and now I'm at this angle. And what happened was that after 2 or 3 visits with him, my wife said, "Carol, I love you, and I will do everything you say that I should do."
Good for you.
Thank you, right? Isn't that what we have to do?
Yes.
I said to her, she said to me, "I want you to go to an MD." I went to an MD. He offered me 3 suggestions on my back. He said, "I don't know what you did. Your muscles are like rock. So I can give you a shot. In 2 or 3 days, you'll feel better. It will not alleviate the situation. I can give you pain pills. You won't care if your back hurts."
Right.
Right? And the
Of course, you
third-
won't be able to drive or function,
Oh,
but
function. Yeah,
you'll be
why
in
do
a
you
terribly
need
good
to work?
mood.
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Mhm. Right, for sure.
And so what I did, he said, "I recommend physical therapy."
That was the third option.
That was the third option. It made sense to me,
Makes sense to me. Yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
So actually, he did give me a little bit of pain meds, but they were just to help me get to sleep at night. I didn't use them for long. I went to the physical therapy and immediately felt better. Much as I did going through the chiropractic solution. 3 days, 3 episodes, or 3 sessions in, I get a call from the insurance company. "Thank you, Anthem Blue Cross and Woodland Hills. You're wonderful people." And they denied the claim. And I asked for what? Why are they denying the claim? And they said, "We don't have to tell you."
Right.
I said, "What?" "Yes, you do." Click. I had to call back. I started moving up the chain. They never gave me a reason for denying the claim. And my contract clearly read at the time, and still reads, 100% coverage if prescribed by an MD. I went to a rheumatologist, okay? Top of the food chain for this kind of thing. I ended up going back to the chiropractor. By the way, thank you, Anthem Blue Cross. You did pay for those visits. It was stupid. It was just dumb. About that time, my friend, the insane Daryl Wayne, if you are K-Rock listeners from the 70s, you'll remember Daryl. He was the PD at K-Rock in the afternoon drive guy. He said, "If you could go back in radio, what would you do?" And I said, "I would talk about alternative health. I would talk about traditional allopathic health. I would talk about those modalities, and at the same time, I would bang like hell on insurance companies and big pharma."
Right.
And this was Wednesday night. He said, "Let's start it Saturday." And I've been doing this for years,
Right.
and I panicked. I said, "Hold on. Give me a day." And I called a friend of mine, John Harper, who owns WMEL. And I gave him the whole pitch. "Hey, we're going to talk about big pharma. We're going to talk." He said, "Let's start it Saturday night." So about a month later, because
Things take time. Right.
it takes time. We're now at 7 stations. We are literally coast to coast. We are growing.
What's the name of your program?
The name of the show is Late Night Health, and my unabashed plug is check us out at latenighthealth.com.
Fine, sure.
Latenighthealth.com. By the way, my guests in the next couple of weeks, may I, will include Josh.
Hey,
Josh is,
hey.
You're at...
I know him. He's a prince.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but we're going to have fun. We're going to talk. We have to come up with another topic,
Sure.
but we'll talk about that later. My point is that the show is reaching an audience, a baby boomer audience. We air at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Ness would love to come in and run the show.
Oh, he likes to work.
He would love
yes,
that.
he likes it very much, yes. He doesn't have a life outside the station, just here all the time.
Well, he's in radio. Why would he? And we have done everything. You and I have shared guests over the years. Earl Mendel has been a guest on your show. Earl is a good friend of mine. I was the first person ever to interview Earl. Years
yes,
ago.
you'd mentioned to me that. That's really pretty impressive. Just mentioned Earl Mendel, author of the Vitamin Bible, which when it came out in the late 70s was really one of the early important books on wellness.
Absolutely.
And Earl has sold more than 11 million copies of Vitamin Bible, and I believe he told me it's been translated into either 32 or 34 languages, so the book has had impact.
Right.
Earl has had impact. He's a registered pharmacist. He's from Canada.
Yes.
He's great, and he's one of the preeminent men in the field of wellness.
Absolutely. There's
Especially,
no question.
and also let me say this: today, wellness is not exactly mainstream, but I believe it's approaching mainstream status, and it's also fashionable, which is not a bad thing either. I'm certainly in favor of that. So many of the ideas that you and I had as young men, that people may have said, "Oh, that's just dopey," now really they've been pretty much picked up by everyone. We're not fighting about the ideas anymore. We're fighting about implementation of the ideas. Right. But the people say, "Oh yes, not sugar. We know that's bad for you. We know exercise is good for you. We know food is important to your longevity." These are concepts that are very basic, but they're important. And in the 60s, 70s, 80s, people said, "Oh, that has no merit." And now we realize, no, those are the basic outlines, parameters for good health. Mm-hmm. Eat carefully, exercise, a cleaner environment, get 8 hours of sleep. Basic stuff, very valuable stuff, not necessarily money makers for the professions, but important stuff. And they're ideas that we had to fight for that now, largely, there's no more fighting about those.
One of the things, well, just either yesterday or today, I'm not sure which day, the Federal Drug Administration came out with a paper. I've only glanced at it, basically saying that multivitamins are useless, that all you're doing is...
Oh, no, that was just three researchers at some dopey institution came out with that. It got a certain amount of press. It did seem really a little bit on the sad side.
They just released it.
Just a little on the sad side.
Right, it is. The Natural Products Association has combated that.
Thank God that they
absolutely. Yeah. There are thousands and thousands of studies that show that natural products work, that are effective.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, they're a lot cheaper.
These guys are fighting rear guard action. I mean, for example, one of the most basic things that everyone uses now, vitamin D in fish oils, a study came out about 9 years ago that said when women use 5,000 units of vitamin D per day, that women reduce breast cancer risk 50%. 50%. Let's put that in perspective. Let's say a woman is out in the garden wearing a tennis outfit, and she's out in the garden 15 minutes, on the skin and through the iris of the eye. In 15 minutes, that person manufactures 10,000 units of vitamin D. So that's, and that's why everyone's taking so much vitamin D. They realize the value of it. And then one of my other favorite studies about women in Northern Europe, women who had postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. What did they do for the women with postpartum depression? They had them eat cold water fish twice a week. And the fish, rich in EPA, DHA, which we need for cognition and mood and focus and many things, brought the women out of the postpartum depression. Because what no one bothered to tell these women, or tell women in general, is that when they are healthy enough to get pregnant, healthy enough to carry for 9 months, healthy enough to deliver a healthy baby, and then healthy enough to recover, their nutritional needs increase about 20%. But no one bothers to tell women, so you have these powerful women who, after giving birth to a child, think, why am I so wasted? What's the problem? And the problem, many factors, but
Absolutely.
part of it is, no, you need to improve your nutrition. So fish oils, rich in EPA, DHA, fantastic for the skin, for the lungs, for mood, for cognition, for children to be able to focus in school. I mean, so these are so well placed that this study that came out, or just quasi-study that came out, I see it really just as an attack on the subject. And I think some people listen to it and think, oh, my goodness, we always knew that eating carefully was a bad idea. But really, to a large extent, it's a joke. Because like I mentioned this, this morning, NPR had a very great segment. I think Tom Berger had it about the players in the NBA, how carefully they're eating now compared to what they did 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
They used to eat a lot of candy bars and stuff, and now they're eating grass-fed beef and they're eating organic. And for the Lakers specifically, when they travel, Whole Foods feeds the team. Wow. Whole Foods is who they hire to feed the team. So these guys on radio can put this rearguard action out about how bad vitamins are, but the reality is they're fighting a dopey rearguard action, and people are starting to ignore them. That's my sense of it.
But the real problem to me, Josh, is that it's money. It boils
down
it's
money.
to
Oh, yeah, it's money.
It boils down to money.
It's money, right.
You know, the natural products industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide, and the reason is because people like this stuff.
They get results.
And they get results.
Right.
Do I want to take something that has little or no side effects? I'm giving the
zero
benefit
side
here.
effects.
Really zero.
No, zero side effects.
I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Okay?
No, you needn't, because they don't deserve it.
They don't.
Yeah,
You're right.
Supplements have zero side effects. Supplements have zero side effects. If they had any side effects, they'd move against them. There's zero side effects.
So
zero incidence of death. Zero.
Zero incidence of death.
Right.
There was a whole controversy about vitamin A overdosing. I can't find it. Nobody's died of it.
Okay, let's do the vitamin A thing. So one of the Arctic explorers in the early part of the 20th century they were lost and they were starving. They were eating polar bear livers. And supposedly some of the men had toxic reactions. So they blamed it because there's nothing else to eat.
Right.
So they blamed it on vitamin A toxicity. Let's talk about vitamin A. You'd have to take millions of units of vitamin A over the course of many months. And then what is the side effect from millions of units of vitamin A, millions of units for many months? Dry skin and nosebleed. And then when you stop taking it, goes right away. So when you buy a 10,000 IU capsule of vitamin A, you'd really have to work it to take millions of units a day for many, many months. So the reality is that's a baseless attack against nutrition. And I want the listeners of Here's to Your Health to know that it has zero merit. And they have so little to attack us about that they repeat that old chestnut from the middle of the 20th century that has no value.
But it has to, and I agree. It has to do with money. It has to do with they want to control it. I mean, unfortunately, more and more of the major supplement and vitamin manufacturers are being gobbled up by big pharma. I don't know if that's good or bad. It could be good if, and that's the biggest word in the English language, if they actually do some studies. I don't believe they will. Okay? I've been involved with a couple of nutraceutical studies in my video production side of my life. And it's fascinating. They do FDA clinical trials. They use the same technology, the same techniques, and they come out with great results. Mm-hmm. And that's why I believe alternative health, chiropractors. I just spoke to a chiropractor on my way into the studio today. And he said to me, I said to him, how will you see the Affordable Care Act affect you? He says, it's going to increase my business because more people will come to me first step before going to an MD. Right. And I think there's a place for both of them. And
I think there is certainly, for sure, yes.
You know?
I think a good chiropractor is very valuable. Let me just mention this if I can. This is just a kind of a point of ceremonial etiquette.
Sure.
I like to use the word biological medicine, not alternative medicine.
Okay.
In the 70s, we used the word alternative medicine because in the 70s, when we were all young, it seemed alternative compared to what the MDs were getting away with. But now, really, it's just what is called biological medicine. That is, eat carefully, exercise, cleaner environment, and try to get 8 hours of sleep a night. So that's all. Those are not just perks. Those are like key points for good health, and it's all based on the work of Emanuel Sharaskin, University of Alabama School of Medicine. He was an MD and a dentist. Sharaskin is a very important fellow, and it just so happens my co-host on this show, Hans Kugler, PhD, out of Stony Brook, he was really a student of Emanuel Sharaskin. I had the good fortune once to hear Emanuel Sharaskin lecture in person, and I was always a big fan, but Hans was a student and a colleague of Emanuel Sharaskin. And these ideas now, as I said, they're largely mainstream, but still we need teachers to talk to people about it. For example, we're drinking Castle Rock mineral water packaged in glass because we like good quality mineral water, and we're not drinking soda because we think soda is just a bad idea. That's all. I'm not saying soda doesn't taste good. It's just a bad idea.
does
Now,
taste
almost
good.
everyone knows soda's a bad idea now, but not everyone. So there is a place for teachers to tell people, listen, you want to be a great basketball player, you want to be a great student, you want to have great teeth and bones, then this soda full of processed sugar and other chemicals is not a good idea. Now, a lot of people still have never heard that. They still have never heard it, so it's our role to offer the information.
Right. There was a study done a number of years ago. I've got to tell you, I'm addicted to Coca-Cola.
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
am.
my goodness.
I love Coca-Cola, the real stuff, the classic. Okay. I try to limit myself to 1 can a week. Sometimes I make it. Sometimes I don't. I know it's bad for me, but I crave it. And I know I should really just cut it off. I know this. However, there was a study done by, I believe it was the Soda Industry Foundation or whatever, that showed that for hydration, it didn't matter if you drank water or Coke. Now, I don't believe that. I always get thirsty for water after I have a Coke.
Well, is it possible that some of the back pain you've had and muscle pain is from eating all that processed sugar?
There's no question.
And also, as we get older, we can't just work all the time. That you need to stretch the body appropriately. A great yoga class with a nice, intelligent yoga teacher who's well-trained, possibly secondarily a good Pilates class. Any kind of stretching
Do you do
exercise
that?
is valuable. Yes.
Do you?
Yeah. Because I find it just... For example, I do a lot of Iyengar yoga because I find the Iyengar teachers are so well trained that when I go there, I feel comfortable saying, gee, my back hurts or my neck hurts, whatever hurts, and they have exercises. And BKS Iyengar just celebrated his 95th birthday just a couple of days ago in India, and he probably is the most influential yoga teacher alive today. Bikram Chowdhury, who does Bikram yoga, is certainly a colorful and important teacher and skillful. But possibly most people still think that BKS Iyengar is the preeminent teacher of yoga. And now yoga enjoys mainstream credibility because it works.
It does. I mean, we've over the last few weeks, and we're having yet another discussion this week on, do vitamins work? Yes, they work. We know that. We've already hashed that out. But there are people who don't know that soda pop every day in super large, 36-ounce bottles is bad.
That's right. There are people still. It's like,
that's why you and I have jobs.
Right. Exactly. It's like every other subject. For example, I could learn to put the transmission back in my car if I need a new transmission, but I don't really want to mess with it. So the mechanic who is good with transmissions and motors, he puts the transmission back in, but I could learn it. Same thing with food as a healing tool. It's what I focus on, so I'm good at this. But like any other subject, like learning to drive the car, it can be learned, and food actually can be learned pretty quickly. It's a pretty simple technology. It's a great technology, but it's actually very simple.
And food as medicine.
Food as a healing agent, right?
Yes.
Food as a healing agent.
On Late Night Health, if people, I just want another shameless plug.
Go ahead, yeah.
If you go to, there's two things on Late Night Health, 3 things. If you go to Late Night Health and send me an email, and just go to Late Night Health, I'll get you a Cordini, which is a cord wrapper.
LateNightHealth.com?
LateNightHealth.com.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. One, if you write me an email, and it's right there, my email's on there, I'll send you a Cordini, which is a cord wrapper contraption. It's really very useful. I love them. That's one thing.
I thought they were acrobats on Ed Sullivan, the Cordinis.
Yes, the Cordinis.
I know them. They were great, really.
I was actually Copogicho. Remember him?
Very good.
Yes,
Yes, I
right. The other thing is that Dr. Michael Lynn has made available some skincare products. If you click on our banner, and last but not least, we're talking about prescriptions. And while they're not my first approach,
right.
we have a discount card from Needy Meds Drug Card. We actually have one that's...
Needy Meds Drug Card. Okay.
Needy Meds Drug Card. There are a lot of drug cards out there. They charge $25 or $30, $40, $50 to get the card.
Yes.
Not this one. You go to LateNightHealth.com. There's a button there. It says get discounts on prescriptions. And if you have dogs and cats, you get a prescription discount there too.
Okay.
You can take it to any pharmacy. I tested this out. I was given a drug to test it out with. It wasn't on my formulary. Again, thank you, Anthem Blue Cross, for having a formulary. I saved $30 or $40 on the prescription had I needed to get it. I tested this out. We tested it out on the East Coast, and out of 5 different cards, this card beat everybody else, even national chain drug discount cards. It was only a penny, but
Very
we
good.
still
Hey,
beat them.
great,
So
great. That's
it's
very
it's a deal for anybody who wants it.
No, that's very good. And once again, Mark Alyn, what stations are you on, and where can I hear you in the next couple of days?
You can hear us every weekend on KABC Talk Radio in Los Angeles, beginning at midnight, right after the news. We're Late Night Health. We air anywhere from 11 p.m. on Saturday night to 10 p.m. on Sunday night. You can check us out at latenighthealth.com. latenighthealth.com. It gives. I mean, you see what I'm looking like now. But anyway, you can learn about Daryl Wayne. You can learn about our guests. You can see our links. You can listen to our archive programs. As I said, Josh is going to be on. I can't remember if it's this week or the week after. We pre-record our shows, and we're here to disseminate information to the baby boomer who may be alone, because radio is a companion. It's listening to radio, especially late at night, is so much fun. My wife and I will actually go to a local park, turn on old time classic radio shows, and listen to The Falcon and
The Shadow.
Lamont
Cranston.
We'll sit there and listen to these old shows, and it is a great date night.
Okay.
And it's cheap.
And a cheap date.
Cheap date night, too, right?
Well, Mark Alyn, I very much appreciate you being on my show today on Here's to Your Health. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it, Josh.
Sure. You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on LaTalkLive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Alyn, inviting you to join me every Wednesday at noon for Elena's Beauty Talk and more, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest, Alberto Trujillo, is the national educator for Flora. Flora, one of the most influential of the wellness companies, and Flora actually was founded in Germany. I think in 1916, one of their first products was, I think, Floradex liquid iron. Alberto, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you here, and certainly you represent an important company, Flora. And how did you get involved with nutrition as a young guy?
Well, I grew up with a dad that was a health nut.
Oh,
I guess
you
could
lucked
say.
out. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, good for you.
I was one of those guys.
Good for you.
And yeah, he used to make homemade granola, and we, had our smoothies every morning. And he was a vegetarian Buddhist, and so I kind of grew up in that.
Well, that's
And-
progressive.
Yes.
Okay, vegetarian Buddhist
Very.
for a dad. Good for you.
He used to hang out over in Ojai.
Aha.
Yeah. And so that led to one thing or another, my interest into health. So I studied cellular biology. And
Where'd you go to school?
Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
And so while I was going to school, I worked at a health food store,
Oh, good for you.
Mother's Market and Kitchen in Costa Mesa.
Ah, Mother's Market in Costa Mesa. That was a fantastic. It's still a fantastic store. They have a new location. But that store was just dynamite.
Yeah, it was great. It's a great foundation for me, and so I learned a lot there. And then, as I got to know the industry, I just stayed in it, And so I had an opportunity to be a sales rep with Flora, and then I became a sales manager, moved to the East Coast for about 7 years. Then I started to do all their trainings, and so this is my 14th year, and
good
this is
for you.
my 25th year in the industry. And I do all the trainings now, so it's fantastic.
That is fantastic. Oh, you have a lovely background. Is your father proud of you?
Yes, yeah, he is.
And do you teach your father stuff that you know that he didn't know? You kind of tell him stuff.
Oh yeah. He always calls me now, and I give him products for certain things. He's in his 80s now, so I give him a lot of bitters for his liver and his gallbladder, and things like that he doesn't necessarily use anymore. But bitters are fantastic.
Yeah. So what exactly? Now bitters are a European product, are they not, or a 19th century product?
They are a European product. They're a Floradex line.
Floradex,
so
yeah.
Same as Floradex is made in Germany. It's like you said, it's been there since 1916, and so they also make a bitter product. And bitters they stimulate the tongue, sends a message to the middle of our brain, and that activates the digestive system. So that's why they're called aperitifs, right? So you take them before you eat, and then all of your enzymes and hydrochloric acid and all bile starts to flow. And bile is made in the liver, stored in the gallbladder. When people have issues with gallbladder insufficiency, bitters help that flow of bile.
Aha.
And it helps that bile get more liquidy, so that you can break up some of the stones in there. And so it helps the function of the liver and the gallbladder. Sometimes as we get older, some folks have a hard time with that. And so they're fantastic. They're the best things, in my opinion, for indigestion.
Right.
Yes.
And the term is herbal bitters.
Yeah, herbal bitters,
Herbal bitters, right.
because they actually work with our own system. They work with our own digestive system, so it produces more enzymes, more hydrochloric acid, more bile. And then it also causes contractions of the lining of the intestinal tract, so then you can get the food moving through. So that's why they're considered aperitifs, or I guess if you take them after you eat, they're considered digestives.
I see. I see. And your dad, because he's in his 80s, you think for an older person that this is important?
Well, I think really in the society that we live in, there probably digestive bitters could benefit everyone, especially a lot of the people that eat processed foods. But he was just having gallbladder insufficiency. So when he ate fatty foods, he would get pain, and he found out that his gallbladder was not working very well, probably because the gall duct was partially blocked and he wasn't flowing bile enough. And as soon as he took the bitters, it really helped him, and he really felt that he wasn't feeling the pain as much.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so now let's talk about the Floradex, the liquid iron. This is one of the original products from Flora?
That is that in the Kinderlove. So the iron.
Oh, the Kinderlove multivitamin.
That's right.
That's
for
also been
children.
around since the early part
Those
of the 20th
two
century.
were the premier products in the Floridix line.
Oh, my goodness, I did not realize. That's
Yes.
very progressive. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's probably the healthiest supplement for children out there. But unfortunately, a lot of kids like the gummy bears. But
They do like
if
gummy
somebody
bears, yeah,
really
yeah.
was looking for what is the healthiest supplement I could give my child that doesn't have any artificial ingredients or anything like that, I would say Kinderlove. You can find a better quality product.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But the iron there it's the premier product. It sells in about 60 different countries. It is the number one selling iron in the world. It is endorsed by the Midwife Association of North America.
Oh.
It really is a really well-known product around the world. So it's a food-based product. There's spinach in there. There's carrots. There's nettles. There's fennel. And then there is the mineral. It's a gluconate, so it's very easy for the digestive system to utilize. And it's all the cofactors and the trace elements in the whole food. And so it's really like liquefied food. It's
Right.
in fruit juice. There's beet juice in there, as well as blackberry juice. And so really it's liquefied already, goes right into the digestive system. It spreads out in the intestinal tract, maximizes absorption sites, doesn't constipate people. So really it's a fantastic product in terms of, especially when you look at many iron supplements out there and they constipate people, they're not so easy on the digestive system. So this product really stands apart.
And this is good for children or for adults?
For children and adults. Basically, the RDA for children after 2 years old is 10 milligrams. So that's usually what it is for men. Women, of course, once they start their childbearing years, just 18 milligrams. So one dose is just 10 milligrams. Salus doesn't believe that you should be getting your total RDA of any nutrient from a supplement. So they're low-dose products, and so
Well, that's philosophical on their part.
Yes, and food should be your primary source of nutrients, and then you supplement the deficiency with the supplement. And so that's a 10 milligram product per dose. It should be good for women, and then the other 8 should come from their food, hopefully. If a man or a child is going to take it, we normally recommend half a dose, which is 5, and it's still half of what we normally should get a day of iron, 10 milligrams. So you're not looking to get 100% of the RDA from the supplement.
Well, actually, that seems very. It seems smart. It seems smart. But thank you, Alberto, for explaining to us. For those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health, we're speaking with the national educator for Flora, Alberto Trujillo, who's on my show Here's to Your Health today. And so this has actually been around since 1916. That's really very impressive that a product is so successful that people like it so much that it continues for like literally almost a century. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is very impressive. It's really, I'm very grateful to be part of Flora and Salud's house because they have such a long tradition of bringing the best European products to North America. And so it really is, a great honor to work with a company like this that's just about to celebrate their 100-year anniversary. And so these products, like I said, the Floridix iron, you can find it in about 60 countries. It's interesting. I was in Zurich in Switzerland in the main train station, and I go into the train station, and they're selling Floridix. They're in an apothecary.
Very nice.
It's amazing, really. It is one of those products that I think is legendary in our industry, and it's been around for so long. And so it's easy to really work with a brand like this.
And how much, say for an adult, male or female, I need 1 teaspoon a day? Is that what I need?
1 teaspoon will get you the 10 milligrams. And so that should be enough. And sure, there are situations when people get iron deficient because maybe they had surgery, they lost a lot of blood, maybe they become anemic during childbirth, the child, even pregnancy, and for some women during their menstrual cycle. So they may need more than their usual 18 milligrams a day, in which case we would recommend them taking 2 doses, that's 20 milligrams, but at different times of the day. because
Right.
this is a vegetable source. Iron, it comes from plants. That's where all the minerals come from the crust of the earth, and then they are, the plants absorb them, and then you eat the plant, you get the mineral, right?
Sure.
So this is a plant source. Iron is what we call a non-heme iron. Heme iron would be from animal.
Right.
That would be a non-heme iron, and it utilizes an enzyme to get from the gut into the bloodstream.
Right.
And so this enzyme transferrin can carry about 3 to 4 milligrams of iron as a maintenance for us. So we eat our vegetables and we get 3 to 4 milligrams at a time. And then if you have a deficiency through the endocrine system, the enzyme knows that you're iron deficient, and it increases the binding capacity of iron up to 10 to 12 milligrams at a time.
I see.
And of course, that's
Wow.
the wisdom of the human body. It's all based on the endocrine system feedback. And so you can absorb more of a particular nutrient or less, depending on what your storage is. Okay. And so in this case, it works with this enzyme. If you are iron deficient for some reason, you will bind more, up to 10 milligrams. So taking, say, 20 or 15 doesn't make sense, because that enzyme has a maximum capacity. So you're not going to absorb more by taking more. People need to understand that.
Alberto, can you please repeat that?
You're not going to absorb more just by taking more.
Right.
And that's really important, because people think the more they take, the more they absorb.
Right.
And the body's very brilliant. It's incredible. And it knows how to protect itself. If it sees a huge amount of any mineral, it's going to actually slow down the absorption and the uptake of it, because it's unnormal to have high amounts of any kind of a mineral. And so you actually, by taking more, you actually slow down the absorption of it. So one dose
That's
is
a
good.
great point. Let me just, Alberto Trujillo from Flora, thank you for making that point. That's really understanding the body, isn't it? I mean, that's, a lot of people just have no idea of that. They think, oh no, I'll take 1,500 milligrams of calcium in one shot, it's better. Thank you, Alberto.
Okay, well, calcium is a big one.
Right.
Right? There, calcium uptakes two different ways: active transport and then passive diffusion. And active transport shuts down once you get above a certain concentration of calcium. Because if the body sees 1,000 milligrams of calcium in the gut, it's going to say, I can't absorb all of that. If I did, I would go into a coma or something like that. It would be serious, because you can't have that kind of high or low blood calcium concentration. People need to understand that. So you need to stay below 500, they say, or even 250, you absorb more. There was a study done when they took two groups, and one group got 1,000 milligrams of calcium once a day, and the other group got 250 3 times a day. And then they actually took their blood and measure serum calcium levels. And the 250 to 3 times a day group had higher levels of serum calcium than the 1,000, even though 3 times 250 is less than 1,000, it's 750. So taking more doesn't mean you're going to absorb more.
Right. Yeah, Alberto, that's, everything is simple after you know it. But that's such a good concept. A lot of people think, oh no, I want to take 60 grams of protein every time I have a meal. And I'm thinking, well, no, it's not like having a bank account. The more money, the better. No. This is absorption of nutrients. It's different. Some people listen to me, some people don't. They think, no, we're not listening to you. But thank you, Alberto. Thank you. And is that one of the doctrines, if that's the correct word, that Flora uses? Is that what their Nature Cure practitioners, which is an old-fashioned term I just love, teaches?
Well, we want people to understand that your primary source of nutrients should be your food.
Mm-hmm.
And food really is what nature gave us, with all of the phytonutrients that the body needs to be healthy. Of course, there are certain situations where lifestyle, or the fact that maybe there are less nutrients in soil and this and that. If you just, unfortunately cannot eat healthy food all the time, and you become deficient in some way or another, then there are good alternatives for you to supplement that deficiency.
Right.
But we do want people to understand that if you have a healthy diet, that should be your primary source of nutrients.
Okay.
As long as you don't eat too much processed food.
If you don't mind, let me ask you about the fluorescence
Yeah.
herbal blend. Now, that also is a product that has been around for a very long time. Can you please explain to the listeners on LA Talk Live how we use the fluorescence SEACT?
Yeah, fluorescence, in my opinion, is one of the most meaningful products this industry has ever seen. In other words,
And I'd like to agree with that.
this product has actually impacted people's lives
Right.
in a more meaningful way than most of the products that
Right.
we've had in this industry. It, to me, is actually my favorite product
Ah,
at
really?
Flora,
Okay.
just because the wisdom that it inherits. It's a native Ojibwe formula, Native American formula.
The native tribes living in the northern Canada.
Yes, northern Ontario area above the lakes, the Ojibways, and it's a combination of 8 herbs. It's an SEAC product, so basically is what we call a cellular detoxification product. And when I say detoxification, I want people to understand that it's not a colon cleanse laxative. It is a detoxification product. And detoxification is an ongoing bodily process that it's used to identify and remove chemical toxins, waste, abnormal cells, sick cells, infected cells, damaged cells, the old cells. And all of these substances are identified and gathered by a group of organ systems that includes the circulation and part of our immune system, the liver, the kidneys, the colon, the lungs, and the skin. So this is the detoxification system that nature gave us.
Can I ask a favor? Could you mention the system again? What does that include?
Yes. So the lungs, the skin, the kidneys, the liver, the colon, and the circulatory system, which involves the lymphatic system and the immune system.
So these are all organs of detoxification.
That's right. That's right. These are the organ systems that are in charge of removing from our body chemical waste and toxins, as well as dead cells, sick cells, abnormal cells, cells that are old and need to be removed.
Alrighty.
And it involves the immune system, and that's why the word detoxification, people need to understand, it's very, very different from doing a cleanse.
Right.
Okay, the way that, for example, the fluorescence helps blood purification is that there are 5 herbs in there that activate what's called macrophages. And macrophages are like immune scavenger cells. And basically, well, macrophage literally means big eater. Macro is large, and phage is to engulf something and digest it in Latin. And so macrophages are just big eaters. They're like the Pac-Man. I don't know if you remember the Pac-Man game.
I remember, yes.
And basically, these macrophages will identify, for example, an old red blood cell. And they will engulf that red blood cell, break it down, and keep the iron for us.
Huh.
And then that old red blood cell gets discarded. And it goes out through your kidneys and the liver and the colon. Okay? That's just an example. But all the old cells, or when you get an infection, if you have a viral infection or a bacterial infection, those cells are identified, and then the macrophage will go and break it down for you. Okay? So there are 5 herbs that activate the macrophages in the fluorescence: the burdock, the red clover, the sheep sorrel, Turkish rhubarb, and the one that activates them the most, because we had it tested for what we call phagocytic activity, watercress.
What? Oh, really?
Yeah, that activated the phagocytic activity the most. And we were all really surprised. We're like, wow, that's great. Because you can eat watercress every day.
And it tastes good, too.
It's great, yeah. So you can put it on your salad. And so those 5 herbs are helping your body identify those old cells and removing them, purify the blood. Okay. Then there's bitter herbs that are great to support the liver.
There are bitter herbs in the fluorescence?
Yes. The thistle.
Oh, blessed thistle.
Yeah, blessed thistle.
Okay.
And there's also the sheep sorrel is a bitter, and so is a Turkish rhubarb, as well as burdock and watercress. It's got bitterness. So it's got these nice bitter herbs that are going to help that bile flow. Now, one of the things that people want to understand is that the liver is filtering toxins out all of the time, and it's trying to make them slightly water soluble so we can flush them out through the urinary tract with enzymes. But some of those toxins end up in the fat cells.
Yes.
And so the liver will dump the toxins into the bile, and the bile carries the toxins from the liver to the gallbladder,
Right.
and then into the small intestine.
Right.
once in the intestine, if we're being good and we're eating our vegetables with fiber,
Right.
fibrous foods, then the fiber absorbs the bile, carrying out all the toxins, and it carries it out of our body when you have a bowel movement.
Right.
So that same idea of helping the liver with bile flow for digestion helps the liver detoxify itself as well.
Nicely said. Well, and those seem like important concepts. Are those concepts widely, everyone kind of agrees with that now? No one really gives you a hard time about that?
No, I don't think that it's pretty foundational and basic in the way that the body works.
Right.
If you really think about it, the only healing process that the human body has is the ability of it to identify the sick cells and gather them and remove them from the body.
Right.
Once you do that, then you resolved your illness, whatever it might be.
Right.
You're basically reestablishing health. And we are self-cleansing organisms. We're
Yes.
self-healing organisms. That's a brilliant thing. So nature gave us the program, and nature also gave us what we need to support the program. And herbs happen to be one of the most nutrient-dense plants on the planet. And this
Herbs are,
product
yes.
was formulated in a way that these people, these native people, really understood the human body to put herbs together that are going to help purify the blood, support the immune system, help the liver work better. There's also herbs in there in the sheep sorrel that have these glycosides that help flush toxins out through the kidneys, the urinary tract. So that's part of the kidney detoxification. The macrophages are also really important for the lungs, because the lungs are exposed to everything that we breathe.
Right.
And they're always being damaged, the cells. And the macrophages are in charge of going in there and removing those damaged lung cells in the alveoli so that you don't have chronic inflammation.
Right.
So those same 5 herbs that help purify the blood help protect the lungs and remove the toxic cells out of there. And then there are anthraquinones in the Turkish rhubarb that help the colon work better. So you have all your bases covered.
Right.
There's also 2 diaphoretic herbs. Those are the herbs that help relax the pores, and then your body can sweat easier. Those are good usually for fever and things like that.
Those are called diaphoretic herbs?
Diaphoretic herbs.
Which two are the
The
diaphoretic?
thistle and the red clover.
Red clover and thistle. I see.
Yeah. So you see how you got all of those covers, all of those areas of detoxification covered in one formula. And I
No, I
think
see that.
that's why the product has been so effective in helping people maintain or restore their health.
And how long has fluorescence been available in the marketplace?
Well, it's been available for quite some time, over 20 years.
All right.
Yes, over 20 years.
And for, let's say someone such as yourself who's healthy, and you meet people all every day, people may cough and sneeze on you. How much fluorescence do you suggest an adult male or female use every day?
I normally think that you got to start low in everything. Again,
Right.
more isn't always best.
Right.
So I always believe that you start with 1 ounce, diluted
ounce.
in equal amounts of warm water,
Uh-huh.
and you sip it slowly so that your tongues get affected by the bitter herbs in there. And 1 ounce diluted in equal amounts of warm water is good. You do that if you want for a week, and then if you're feeling good, you can go to 2 ounces diluted in equal amounts of warm water.
Is that an ounce in the morning, ounce at night?
Yes, on an empty stomach.
So it's really better empty stomach.
Yeah, because there's less competition for absorption.
And so if we use it on empty stomach, should I then wait how long before I eat a meal?
You don't have to wait that long because it's liquefied and it's nothing solid. So I would say you're good within 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. And this, after I open it, I need to refrigerate it.
Yes, there's no preservatives. None of these products have any preservatives, nor does the Fluoridex iron. So it's really important for people to know that they should refrigerate their products after they open them.
That's great. Alberto Trujillo of Flora, for those of you just tuning in to Here's to Your Health, a great educator on this important subject, and Flora, an important supplement company with a long track record. Let's move to some of the new stuff. Udo, I was told that this fellow, is his last name Erasmus?
Yes.
That Udo Erasmus literally named flaxseed oil. That before that it was always just called linseed oil, and he made up the term flaxseed oil. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well,
yes.
that's very nice, isn't it?
Yes, actually, it was in the mid-1980s. He written a book called Fats and Oils, and then that book became Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. And in doing the research, that's how he developed the Udo's oil. And he knew that the linseed oil was not necessarily meant for consumption, but he developed a process that used no heat, no light, no oxygen, but more importantly,
No heat, no light, no oxygen.
more importantly, no solvents. And so this was made with health in mind.
Right.
And it was basically a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, which in the 1980s, and in doing his research, he found out that we were very deficient in the diet.
And he certainly was right about that one.
Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. Mhm, right.
But, you know, back in the 1980s, it was really difficult to convince people you needed to eat fat to be healthy.
Right,
Of course,
for sure.
Today, people understand that omegas are very important for our health. But he went out and he developed the product. He introduced flax oil to the health food industry in 1986. So we saw our very first little black bottle of flax oil. And it was actually done with another company called Omega.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually he ended up at Flora. So this is 1988, we started to press flax oil. And then we started to make his oil, the Udo's oil after that. So he's the guy that really started this whole Omega category, which today, it's one of the biggest categories in our industry.
Yes, it is, and deservedly so.
Yes, that's right, because these nutrients are really important for us. So he started it all, and he went around and educated everybody in the importance of omega fatty acids. And this product basically gives you a 2-to-1 ratio, omega-3 to 6. So it gives you twice the omega-3s, because those are the ones that we're most deficient in the diet. But the linoleic acid, the essential omega-6, is still an important fatty acid that people don't get a good quality of, because most of the omega-6s that people get on their diet come from processed foods.
Right.
So we do make, what Udo likes to say is, you need an oil change, just like your car. So you need to take those damaged oils that we are consuming in processed foods and then replace them with good, healthy oils made, for your health.
Well, Alberto Trujillo, this has been just remarkable. How do we contact Flora? How do we purchase Flora products?
Well, you can find them at every health food store
Every health food
around
store?
the country.
Whole Foods has
Whole
them,
Foods,
and right. Okay.
Sprouts,
Lassen's,
Mothers,
okay. Erewhon, all the biggie-
Erewhon.
okay, very
yes,
good.
all the across the country, all the health food stores. Yeah, of course, you can find them on the internet as well. And
what about your website? What's the Flora website?
Our website is florahealth.com. So www.florahealth.com.
Alberto Trujillo, it's been a fantastic interview. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for being a guest today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. We'll be right back after these important messages.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Carr, Business Relations Manager for LA Talk Live. Did you know social media produces almost double the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or even pay-per-click ads? And that about 46% of all online users count on social media when making that ever-important purchase decision. Hey, if you feel lost when it comes to social media, Top Tier Media can help you. Top Tier Media specializes in social media management and blogger outreach for beauty, fashion, health, and lifestyle brands. To learn more, go to www.toptiermedia.com. That's www.toptiermedia.com. Top Tier Media, the official social media marketing company of LA Talk Live and the Talk Live Broadcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bey back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bey Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bey Show, exclusively on LATalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LATalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Angela DeJoseph. Join me Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific, The Angela DeJoseph Show. We're going to talk about health, wealth. We're going to share news, interviews, and entertainment. So don't forget to tune in to The Angela DeJoseph Show, Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Time. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, Radio Flag, TiVo Radio, and now live on Facebook. Watch and listen directly on LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Y'all ready for this? Yeah!
Hi, I'm Jerry Bell of the Daz Band in New Birth.
And I'm Brahima Arsalan.
Inviting you to join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Time for Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics, baby.
Join us as we play some of the greatest hits of soul and R&B and listen in to interesting discussions with the legends of the music.
So don't you forget, join us on the Jerry Bell's R&B Soul Classics. You'll love it. Exclusively on LaTalkLive.com.
You can also catch us on iTunes Radio, R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio.
Or watch us and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com, baby.
Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure.
This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk, baby. We are music.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My guest is Lois Rose, who is an actor, a writer, a historian, an artist, and has a book on the beads of Shakespeare. Lois Rose, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you on. And so would you explain to the listening audience what the premise of the book is about Shakespeare?
Well, this is a book that I've been writing for 25 years. And the premise is really getting your life's worth out of attending the theater, or, people say the play's the thing. Right. And I maintain that it doesn't matter whether it's a play on stage or a play at third base, that when you really look at all of the facts about it and all of the things that trigger your imagination, you get much more out of it. In a Shakespeare play, for example, most people know about Hamlet. And they know that there's a whole tragic story there, and they also know that there's a convention in theater that began with the Greek theater, that you can only take so much tragedy and then you introduce some comic relief. And so there are two characters in the Shakespeare play that happen in a graveyard when Hamlet is going to observe the grave of Ophelia, and they're the grave diggers. They're sometimes called the clowns. And they are theoretically just put there to make a little funny something to break up all of this very emotional things. But if you start to think about Shakespeare and the beads and what they represent, suddenly you are in 9th century Denmark. You are understanding that these two characters had a life before they walked into that graveside that day, and that they will walk out and continue to have a life. And the key is the beads, because many times burial sites, the longest lasting thing that's there are beads. People, and particularly in Denmark at the time that the Shakespeare play is set, there were the Vikings who came through, and eventually the Celts who came through, and the warriors would be buried with beads. They were considered a very important thing. And one of the things that they would have dug up would be amber. And they might also, of all of the characters in the Shakespeare canon, they might also have come across glass beads, glass with little faces in them, mosaic glass beads.
So
And
glass was an important technology at the time?
it was. The glass had been discovered about 5,000 years before.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. And
amber, is amber a natural substance?
amber is the substance that drips from trees about 100 million years ago. And the newer things, copal, is 20 million years. But somehow it has a great importance in the lore of medicine.
I see.
But in the case of the Shakespeare clowns, if you stop and think, all right, they've dug up these beads and they've got some amber to trade maybe. What are they going to do with those beads? Do these people have a life? And one of them is younger, one of them is older, and one of them asks his younger friend, go and get me some liquor. And so you can assume that that's a man who perhaps lives alone, drinks heavily, and he's going to trade his beads or whatever treasures he digs up for perhaps more credit at the pub. The younger man, you might assume, has a family, and maybe he brings his beads home for his wife or for his children to play with. And suddenly you've got two live characters, and so you have two more people on stage who that money you've spent to get the ticket, you've gotten double your money's worth. You don't know just about Hamlet and Horatio, now you know about the two gravediggers. And the health aspects of amber, this is, let me just...
Well, they certainly look lovely.
Aren't they
actually.
beautiful?
They really look lovely, actually, yes.
And many people believe that they've captured the sun. They're actually resin that sometimes has findings in it that have captured the creatures that were around when 100 million years ago. You can see how many colors there are here.
Is there a term for that when they captured a little insect and they got it enclosed? And what is it? Was there a term for that?
I think the term is when they capture an insect and it's enclosed.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Kind of a long term. Okay, very good. That's a technical term. Okay.
Yes, you're right. Yes, there are other terms. Inclusions is really probably the word you're thinking about.
Now, I did notice when I was looking at your website that you were in Ireland at a important museum in Ireland that you would like to talk about.
Oh, well, that is just a marvelous place, and it's in Dublin, and they have amber there. They have a marvelous bead collection, and one of the things about amber is that it is considered a great curative for difficulties of the respiratory system.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
So if I was with a friend yesterday who said, when I was diagnosed with asthma, I was trying everything to treat myself, and I remembered my mother had a string of amber beads, and I asked her if I could use them. And in the meantime, she was also walking. She was taking whatever herbs that were good for her, and she's gotten very, very much better.
Oh, great.
So I want to posit an idea with you about these beads, because here's eye beads.
Eye beads.
Eye beads. You see these little dots here. And they are protective in a way that I'll explain to you in a minute. There's crystals. Here is amethyst. That's a protection
Oh, very
against
nice.
drunkenness.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Coral hung over. If you look at old Renaissance paintings,
Yes.
you may find some with the Virgin Mary holding the baby Jesus, and way above is a beautiful piece of coral hanging down. It's supposed to protect the very young. And turquoise is a very important protection, both by its color, the blue that means fertility. I don't mean fertility personally, I mean fertility of the earth.
I see.
The water that gives us life. But also it protects the wearer from breaking in a fall. The theory is that if one takes a fall, that the turquoise will break instead of you. And this becomes very important in The Merchant of Venice, because the character Shylock, who is clearly gone absolutely nuts, and yet he's been a controversial character ever since Shakespeare wrote it in the late 16th century. But there's a clue in there that I think probably nobody has noticed it exactly. I think you're getting original information here.
Good. We like that on Here's Your Health. Yes, please.
When Shylock discovers that his daughter, who he's recently lost his wife, and he lives in the ghetto, and he's trying to get his teenage daughter to take over the responsibilities of the household, and she's rebelling, and she runs off with somebody. She takes just what she thinks would be her dowry, and that includes her mother's or her father's ring that was given to him by Leah, his wife, and it's a turquoise. And when he finds out from a friend, he's trying to find his daughter, he knows she's missing now, and a friend says she was spotted down at the wharf, and she traded the turquoise ring for a monkey. And he says, oh, I would have given, a jungle full of monkeys for that ring that was given to me by Leah. And what that really means, and Shakespeare would have known this, there are a few things that Shakespeare audiences would have known always. She used to take the break for him. Shylock has been a moneylender, as was Shakespeare at one point, and his father, which people don't know very much. He has survived in a very competitive trade on the bridge in Venice, the Rialto, and no matter how difficult the difficulties he's had with his clients, most of them Christian and most of them very prestigious in the community, he's managed to keep his cool and to be very good. He survived for a long time and made a success of his business. And I believe that part of that is because when he came home to an orderly home, a woman who loved him. He belonged to his own community. And now she's gone, and she's not there to break the fall. And so when he's confronted with someone who's been insulting him for years, he has what I suppose we would, not so long ago, call a nervous breakdown. Mm-hmm. He's just going to pieces. There's really no excusing the things that he's doing, and he makes this disastrous bet that he's going to take a pound of flesh in payment for a loan. And the key that tells us that Shakespeare is not saying this is a terrible man, he's saying this is a broken man, is the turquoise. So I think it's good for analyzing things. Looking at these things here, would you like to know a little bit more about crystal?
Certainly.
That's here's a quartz crystal, and I hope you can see this. And then just by you are some crystal beads.
Yes.
And these are, I write about them in the book because the characters who are of interest in, and that's the Shakespeare bead formula. What is the formula? The formula is that if you take the time and place in which Shakespeare has placed the play, and you take the character, their status in society, their history, their personal personalities and history as you know it. Then if you try to think what beads they might have had, what was the technology, what would people have had, then you know more about that character. And then if you think, where would that character, where did they get those beads? Why did they wear them? Who gave them to them? When I say where did they get those beads, I mean, did they inherit it from a family? Was it given to them by a lover? Is it a gift from a payment for something? Or is it that they sought it out because it has a power that they wish to have? And in the case of crystals, I would say that in most cases it was sought out because crystals have always appealed to people. They're beautiful. They reflect the light. You can get lost in looking at them. But in Shakespeare's time, they would have had a particular meaning, and it would be to look into the future. And I do have a page in the book that talks about the third witch in Macbeth. And here again are these characters. We have the first, the second, and the third witch going toil, toil, trouble. And what they represent is the past, the present, and the future. And we generally don't know much more about them. They look like old hags. But at least we can know their recipes, and we begin to see these creatures and how they live in this nether world, and they're controlled by still another more powerful force. And there was a custom called, it's hard to know, but there's a confusion about is it pronounced screeing or scrying, but it's looking into the future. And Queen Elizabeth, who was the queen during most of the time that Shakespeare was writing.
What were these years that Shakespeare was writing?
Shakespeare was writing he was born in the 1540s, and he died in 1660. So from the time he was about 20, he was writing and probably attempting, he wrote some sonnets even before that. He was an early bloomer. He got married at 17 to Anne Hathaway, who was 10 years his senior. 8 years, excuse me. And that was not a particularly successful marriage, except that they had, first of all, twins. And one of the twins was named Hamnet. And there is Hamnet.
Okay.
And there is some speculation that the word Hamlet, the Prince of Denmark, was in reference to this boy who died at 11. And anyway, back for a moment to the crystals. Queen Elizabeth actually studied with a doctor who specialized in interpreting and using the crystals. She was very interested in mathematics. She was very interested in magic. And so they were a very important part of the fiber of that society. And also on one of the strings that you have there, you see there's little beads in between, and they have, can you see that there's eyes there? And their eyes are sort of like this.
Yes.
Right, and so this is...
This is very nice looking.
Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they?
Yes.
The concept of, have you ever heard of eye beads?
I have not.
Aha. Well, it's a handy thing to have. And an eye bead is one that's, any bead that has little dots on it is an eye bead, and it's intended to protect you from the evil eye.
I see.
And an evil eye historically has been if you notice that somebody is looking at you malevolently, wishes you harm, and people really try to ward it off. The hand of Fatima is supposed to protect you from the evil eye. But a good eye bead, whether you wear it as a pin or a ring, or most likely as a necklace, and have the beads, it attracts, it's like a lightning rod, and it attracts the evil eye to it and takes the sting off of the wearer of it. And if you have a really good one, it's going to zap it right back at whoever sent it to you. And this is a good thing. My feeling about all of these protective things, especially, say, the amber, because we spoke about that a little bit before, that if you know, say, that you have a respiratory problem and you're wearing amber to help protect you from it, does the amber really do any good? I question that. But what it does is it reminds you that you have a respiratory problem. That if the amber, which is supposed to collect sunlight, and it's soft and warm when you put it around your neck, then maybe if it's soft and warm, maybe you also need a scarf around your neck. Maybe you need to take care of yourself and find fresh air to breathe. That was one of the things that my friend does. She walks every day down at the ocean. And
Seems like a smart move.
Right. And this is a reminder to make a smart move. So I think that many of these amulets, whether they actually do what the legends tell us, and the legends tell us about 1,000 different things about each of these things, they still really help as reminders. And
so excuse me. So you were a Shakespearean actor as a younger woman?
Yes, and I was at the Ashland, Oregon Shakespearean Festival, which is in Ashland, Oregon, and it was a wonderful experience. I was a theater student at UCLA, and you do summer stock when you're learning like that. And I wanted to do summer stock. I had invitations from all over the country. And my father was not happy with the idea that I was going to go off someplace. But Ashland, Oregon Shakespeare sounded all right to him. It's
really one of the best, possibly the best Shakespeare festival in the United States, is it not?
It is, yes. And I've seen many of them, and I've seen them in England. I've seen them all over the place, and it's quite remarkable. And frankly, I think now they have thousands of applications for every part that's open. I'm not sure I would have made the cut at that point. But in any event, Shakespeare was just listed to be the third most important person in history. That this is a season of lists. And
why is it that actors are so enamored of Shakespeare's plays? What is it about them that you can tell us that the actors just love Shakespeare?
It is. It's challenging, and yet it expresses some of the deepest feelings. When it was performed early on, if you can imagine an Elizabethan theater, the Old Globe Theater, I asked my grandson the other day, what do you think the audience was for a Shakespeare play? And he said, well, I'm sure they were very refined because we have this notion that Shakespeare is classy. And I said, I don't think so. I think it was a wild scene. It was a chaotic scene. If the audience, in the cheaper seats, they weren't seats, they were standing. And there were vendors walking among them with food and with drink. And you went to see and be seen and visit and maybe pay attention to the play. So you had to be very good to start with on stage. And if you weren't, the audience might really actually rush you getting onto the stage. So most of Shakespeare's lines at that point would have been declaimed and spoken because he writes with a certain rhythm, and they would have been paying attention to that rhythm. For modern audiences, the great performers learn to speak it conversationally. And if you talk with most people in this time, they are a little bit afraid of seeing Shakespeare because they had to study it in junior high school. They never understood what it was. And one of the great entrances into getting it is there are wonderful books online or in your library that will tell you the folklore of Shakespeare, and much of that is folk medicine. And it makes it much easier to understand these references where you keep thinking you see a reference to an herb or a plant or something, and you think, where did that come from? I must have missed something in Act One because it makes no sense.
Right.
But to Shakespeare's audience, it would have been very, very clear, and the references to the stones as well. But anyway, I did act, and I was modeling at the time. And so I had some parts that were, I had lines, and I could get a feeling, but I also had a couple of parts where I was simply in the court, standing and with no lines, and I filled out my gown nicely. I stood up straight.
That seems important in Shakespeare's time and in our time as well, for sure. Yes.
Right. But I hadn't a clue what this person was whose gown I was animating. And years later, I started to make jewelry. You can see by all of these things. I've made all of these things. And I began to sell to museum stores. And I had a buyer ask me if I could do something that would permit her to put them in the Folger Shakespeare Library gift shop. And I said, well,
where's that?
That's in Washington, D.C., and it's just a magnificent. I was thrilled to be there. I expect to be there again with the book. And so I said, okay, I label everything with a history on my beads. And there's bound to be, Shakespeare's been around for a long time, beads have been around for a long time, there must be some kind of association. So I began to try to tie them into various characters. And the glass had the Venetian connection. And as I was doing that, I realized that I was understanding so much more about the characters, because once I had something tangible that I could think, where does it come from? Why do they keep it? Suddenly, that person had a life. And that was what I tried to find a way for years, first of all, to gather the information, and secondly, how to tell the story, and how to tell it so that there was information not just for actors, but mainly for the audience, and also for set designers, for costumers. Most Shakespeare productions really don't use beads as they certainly could, and beads are wonderful on stage or film. So that was really how this thread carried through with the craft. And one of my friends said to me, Art, you would like to share with also something about your Spoon Please book.
Yes.
Right. How are you going to do that?
Right.
And I said, I have probably one of the most unique solutions to this. It is that I have a Shakespeare spoon.
Okay, a Shakespeare spoon. I do not know what that is.
That is a souvenir from Stratford-upon-Avon.
I see.
And it has a picture of Shakespeare on it. And so, voila, we are into that. I also have something here that Shakespeare and health, how would Shakespeare have treated himself? People don't even really know how he died. But one of the ways he might have started his day was to have a dollop of wine. And this would be the sort of spoon that would be in a tavern.
Oh, I see.
And it was made especially for wine. This is a souvenir from one of the pubs in England. So that got him off to, and most people, a fair start.
But the term wine might have been in a different context than what we today think of wine. It could have been something much more with honey, possibly, or elderberry liquid.
Right,
It doesn't necessarily mean alcohol. It could be alcohol, but not necessarily.
Exactly. Something that we might call a tonic of some sort.
A tonic of some sort.
But what I wanted to share with you about the Spoon Please, because I'm so impressed with the things that people learn that are practical about their health here. And Spoon Please has one practical idea in it, and that's that restaurants now, in most cases, don't serve spoons. And the pricier the restaurant, if you sit down, take a look next time you go out for something to eat, you're probably going to find a fork on your left and a knife on your right and no spoon. If you go to a cafeteria or someplace where a fast food place, you're probably going to find wrapped up in a napkin a knife, a fork, and a spoon, because that's what really everybody needs to eat.
Right.
And I feel that it's a real threat to our health. I had lunch yesterday at a beautiful country club, And they put out an appetizer. They brought a basket with some breads and crackers. And they put out some hummus and another kind of a buttery thing. And there were side plates, but there was no way to lift that. We had a fork on the left, a knife on the right, and no spoon to put any of those appetizers on your plate so that if you wanted to, you could dip back. And even if you're very careful about if you're dipping freshly, I have something in the book that's called Spoon Science. And what I suggest is that you take an 8-ounce glass. This is very, very technical. Okay. And you take you fill it with water, and then you take a chopstick, and you put on the teeniest drop of food coloring, preferably blue because it's easy to see. And you take that teeny drop on your chopstick and just touch it into the water and watch what happens to that water. And it's going to turn blue. And then imagine that that teeny drop on your chopstick is saliva. And your saliva doesn't, you don't know what's in your saliva. Are you well today? Are you coming down with the flu tomorrow? Heaven forfend. And so when you see that clear water turn blue with what could be carrying anything, what you need to say is spoon, please. And
well, Lois, I get the concept there. Actually, it seems like a very good concept. For those of you just tuning in, we're speaking with Lois Rose, who is an actor and a writer. Her new book. Well, actually, when did this book come out on Shakespeare Beats?
This book has been out for in 2012, but I'm just now really introducing it into the community because it takes a long time to get your copyright.
Yes.
And just this week, I got my copyright, my ISBN number, and now I'm hoping that people will find it at the Shakespeare festivals and just every place where people are congregated to have a wonderful theatrical experience.
And
good. Also,
Lois, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I'd like to thank you for being a guest today on Here's to Your Health. It's been fun and informative. You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
The American Heart Association's Heart Walk is coming. Bring your family, bring your friends, bring your coworkers. Help yourself and those around you to live longer, healthier lives. Form a team today and walk to help the American Heart Association defeat heart disease and stroke, two of the nation's leading killers. For more information, visit heartwalk.org.
Beauty magnets. Cleopatra's beauty ritual. Beauty magnets are a modern-day spin on an ancient beauty secret. Beauty magnets are a unique system of relaxation, revitalization, and renewal. Face and spirit reach a new level of balanced beauty, making you look and feel radiant. Tiny charged magnets increase circulation, promoting the look and feel of a natural lift. Face and spirit reach a new level of balanced beauty. De-stress your face with magnet therapy. Beauty Magnets of Beverly Hills, Hollywood. Available at www.beautymagnets.com. That's www.beautymagnets.com. Beauty Magnets, Cleopatra's Beauty Ritual, and proud sponsors of Elena's Beauty Talk.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bay back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bay Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bay Show, exclusively on LaTalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. And for the holiday season, we have the dancer Liliana Somma, who has 3 very nice schools of dance here in the LA territory and teaches children to dance and to love athletics. I think that works right in. Liliana, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. I did watch some of your videos of your students dancing, and it seemed fun, and it seemed like the children, the young adults, were having a very good time, and some of them had some very good moves.
Yes,
quite frankly. So how did you get involved with dance?
Well, my mom brought me to the very first class when I was 4 years old. I actually have it on video. I was on her lap, and I cried the whole time. So I actually didn't participate. It's awesome, which is really the day in the life.
You were on stage crying?
No. I didn't even want to go out and take the first dance class at the studio. So, but of course, she brought me back the second week, and I danced most of my life. And basically, I had to learn English when I started kindergarten because my parents are from Italy. Oh. And I was just a shy, introverted girl, very, very shy. And dance kind of like took my soul out and made me more comfortable and very expressive with everything that I'm doing now. I actually asked a musician out. I went up to him and I asked him out. He was the lead singer, of course, and guitarist. I ended up marrying him, and actually we have a music school as well. So it's dance and music that we offer.
Where are your schools, by the way?
There's one in Manhattan Beach. That one has been open about 2 years.
What was that? What's the name?
Manhattan School of Dance and Music. Mm-hmm. School of Dance and Music is what they're all called. We're a school and we teach dance and music. Can't get more simple than that.
That sounds good.
There's one in Redondo Beach that's been about 7 years. The Hermosa location was my first one I started 14 years ago. But before that, I actually did after-school programs. I started at the country club in Manhattan Beach when I was 16 years old, and that's what started the whole thing.
You were dancing.
That's when I actually started teaching, and I started a business. I've been dancing since I've been 4, and I kind of fell into teaching, and I just loved it. I loved the environment. My adults that I taught actually were more scared to try to move their bodies more than my 3-year-olds. So I had a great time teaching. I decided that I went to Loyola Marymount for a biology degree. How that makes sense? Well, of course, Italian mother, dance is for fun, but you got to do something that's, really important. Yes.
Study biology, good for you.
But
well, studying biology like that, does it kind of give you a background in physiology, have a sense of how the body works?
I thought I was going to go down that route, but instead of saving lives, one day I was in the hospital doing an internship. I decided that I was changing lives more through dance than saving them. So, and now I've actually turned that around, and I started my new business a couple months ago, and I actually work with small business owners that do something similar, whether it's a karate studio or a preschool teacher or anybody who's really has something to give back to the new generation and helping them come out of the shell, especially someone like me. And I help them with their business, because a lot of those people have such a big heart, but 97% of them will actually fail and have nothing to show for it by the time they're 65 years old. And the nerd part of me that really worked into, okay, well, how does the business part run? Now I'm still teaching, but instead of teaching dance, I'm teaching the business skills that they need. And it's been the most rewarding experience.
That sounds very good.
Yeah.
So mostly, are you working with people who are involved with, say, movement, like karate teachers, et cetera? Is that who you're working with?
Yeah, definitely. Movement, anything instructional that they are working with children. And they have the artistic skill. They are like the best karate teacher, the best swim instructor. I'm working with a tutoring business that's, opening their second location. They're so great at what they do. Their heart is there. They are teaching that next generation. And but they need the second part, and they need to know how to run the business. And they never really learned how to do that.
Sure.
So, I just have told them what I've been through in the last 13 years, and it's working for them too. So, which makes me feel good, because the better that they are as a business, the more people that they can touch, the more students that will get better at math or reading or be able to swim or, do anything artistic. I take it very seriously. It's changed my life. So,
With your dance students, I imagine the young boys and girls think, this seems like fun, or they want to get involved with it. And do they develop an understanding about their bodies, about dance, about how things work, that that they just kind of shocked about? They do a move, they didn't think they could do it, or and then to some of them, as they get older, they move into, do you also have cheerleaders working for you? Do you have other athletes who go on to other things when they get the body awareness at age 4, 5, 6, 10?
The most wonderful thing about putting your child in a program of dance or anything like that, you're putting them in a very uncomfortable situation.
Oh, really?
And well, yes, especially the adults that are trying to do anything physical with their bodies. Most people are very uncomfortable being free with their bodies and moving in general. So in turn, when you start putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation, then that'll turn around, and then you do that again in your life, which usually brings strength and growth into what you're doing. And I've done that. Everything that I'm doing right now is because I did that through dance first. I physically was always moving. And that's why right now with my businesses, I'm physically always moving. I don't like standing still. I need to feel like I'm growing and creating. And that's the best part of it. But yes, many of them do go on and have it always part of their life, for sure.
Well, it seems like it really adds to your life, that body awareness, movement. And then I guess if some of them decide to go into acting, they can bring body movement into their characters they might be creating, and they make a better presentation on camera.
I have 90-year-olds taking ballet just to keep fit at my studio.
Well, that seems like a smart move.
You have to keep, it has to be fun.
Right.
You had mentioned, okay, well, they start for fun and maybe it becomes something serious. Our lives, our businesses, anything that we do needs to be fun, or you're not going to stick to it. And that's even how I've been trying to promote healthy eating with my dancers. They're not going to want to hear what they have to do from their parents. It has to be fun. You have to have a new twist to it, because that's where your brain is going to say, okay, I can get this down. I can do this. Let's throw some kelp in there and make it fun.
Let's not drink any soda today, or this next 10, 15, 20 years. Yeah, I find that people are willing to hear the information, and people have never heard it. And then if someone credible tells them, they think, oh my God, we had no idea. Really, soda's bad for me? They had no idea. And then you can make an important corner in their life. You can really help them. And certainly dancers need to be flexible and alert and strong, and any processed sugar they consume, not good for them.
Right, and you have to keep it simple, because everything is so complicated. Even my teenagers that go on Google and they're looking for information on okay, what are they going to do next? And there's so much information out there for not only my dancers, but all the business owners that I'm working with. It's It's consuming, even for those that are trying to get fit and trying to be healthy. So you just have to keep it simple, which angers some people. Well, what do you mean I have to drink water? I need to eat more vegetables? Actually, it's that simple. But when you think about your 3 meals a day, to put those vegetables in there, unless they're already cut up in the refrigerator, unless you keep it easy and simple and fun, it's not going to happen.
We gotta teach them how to get the process rolling. I'm sure that when you teach the young girls and boys some of the dance moves they do on stage, at first they think, "Oh my God, I can't do that." But they put their time and effort in, and then over a period of weeks and months and whatever, they find no, they can do those jumps, and they can do those graceful moves on stage, and they simply had to learn and practice.
It's exactly what I'm doing right now with my small business owners as well. They think it's very complicated. Oh, I just don't know how to do that marketing thing. I just don't. I just want to be able to teach. I don't know about all that other stuff. It's actually very simple. You do the best that you can. You get your technical skill totally down, and then you learn a few things about marketing. You learn a few things about management, and you'll be able to serve more people. And so keeping it simple has been huge for me personally, also for my own health. A lot of the small business owners I help is because at one point I was working, literally I was at the studio from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night.
Well, that sounds like retail. That sounds like retail, my dear. That's all just retail. Hey.
Anybody who owns...
Welcome to retail.
Well, yeah, I know, which I always stayed away from. I don't think we even have a T-shirt at our school that you can buy. But you sacrifice because you love what you're doing. But then you're sacrificing your health. And my parents are European. I go out of the country twice a year because I'm reminded that having silence, part of your day, taking a moment to eat and love to talk about what you ate for lunch. I take it very seriously and I put it in my everyday. And I love what I do. I love teaching dance and music teachers. But at the same time, I need to be with my family. I will put my kids to sleep. And that healthy balance, it's very difficult to find these days.
Yeah, it's very
It's
tough.
very
No,
hard.
good for you, obviously, to try to implement that, because I think most of us realize it's better to implement that. I'm just making a joke about the retail, because in retail, I've always been a natural foods grocer. 6 days a week, you're there. I mean, that's just it. If you own a restaurant, then you're there 6 days a week or 7 days a week.
My parents own an Italian restaurant.
The thing about owning a restaurant is, especially your parents are probably my age, but and their parents' generation, so you have 7 or 8 children, and then they all work in the restaurant, and then it goes fantastic. But in a restaurant, if you've got to hire people and you're not there, then what happens is the silverware leaves by the front and the back door, and the wine leaves by the front and the back door, and the steaks leave by the front and the back door, and the plates leave by the front and the back door.
But I will tell you that there is a better way. There is a better way, as long as you have systems in place that there's accountability checks.
Punishment, is that what we're talking about?
Well, no, I mean, there could be hidden cameras.
Hidden cameras? Probably a good idea, really.
No, there is a better way, because I don't want anyone ever that has chosen to do a small business, right, to sacrifice their life. What's going to happen when you're 65? You're looking at, your biggest regret. Yes, you must have loved the restaurant business. Yes, you loved your business. What did you do? Work 12 hours a day? Did you give up watching your own kids and their activities? What did you give up? We're only here for a small period of time. So I make sure that I reward myself on a weekly basis.
No, that sounds very
monthly
fair.
basis,
that sounds very
and
fair.
yearly basis.
That sounds very fair.
No, it's important. The balance has been important. And I've actually had experience recently finding out with my health that my CR reactive protein was 7, which is very inflamed, and I had to learn. The hardest thing was for me to tell my Italian mother that she had to now buy organic food and get the imported wheat from Italy. Anyway.
Why organic is a concept? Are your parents live in Italy now?
No, they live next door. You're talking to an Italian girl. What are you talking about?
Well, that gives strength to the family. But the idea of organic is something that, if you were chatting to your grandmother or great-grandmother, well, everything was organic before the Second World War anyway. Mm-hmm. And then the problem with sprays are a big problem. And I think organic is moving towards mainstream status, and I think it really needs to. And I think you did a nice thing telling your mom to eat organic. You actually helped your mom, which is a real nice thing to be able to do.
Yeah. So I'm doing it everywhere in my life. I mean, you can't come say hello to me at my house without me giving you a book about something, because I see myself as a teacher.
Good for you. Good for you.
I am. The biggest, most important is playing. I think that's the biggest thing that's not part of anywhere. dancing is playing, it's movement, it's being playful and having fun. And I think that everyone is very serious these days. And I would say to you that you would have more of a successful business if you started playing more with your friends, with your family, with yourself. And with your business itself, and having that passion.
By the way, I completely agree with you. I'm trying to be the camera here during this interview, but no, I completely agree with what you're saying. I know it's good information. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. And if sometimes I might have to send you to Italy. I might need to send you to the Amalfi Coast.
To Italy. Italy is actually fantastic. I've never been there, but I know everyone loves Italy for sure.
Yeah. So when you're on a boat there, and I mean, again, my parents came from poverty. My parents came from nothing, and they came to the United States. My mom was a waitress, and my dad was a bartender, and they saved money to open an Italian restaurant for me to be a doctor, of course, right? So my whole life was supposed to go one way, and then they disowned me actually when I opened my first studio.
Oh well, painful moment there.
But I was accepted back into the family when the second studio opened. Okay, you're going to be successful now. You can be our daughter. But no, really, it was pretty intense. But I am thankful for everything that they've taught me, because family and time just to be is very important to keep. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing right now with my small business owners, just because they're starving for the correct information, and it's impossible. It seems impossible to find the correct information. You think you could find all your answers on Google, and I can be like, no, listen, really, I have had a waterfall coming down my roof before, and I've had to cancel the day. Let me sit you down and tell you exactly what you have to do.
Right.
And just giving someone the 13 years of experience that I've been through, being the little pigtail-haired girl talking to the landlord and negotiating with them, to give little old me at 22 years old an actual business. And and again, telling them the management skills that do work. Maybe you just sit down. Take a moment with someone who's working for you. Talk about what the agreement is that you had. I think the biggest thing is everyone needs to just slow down. And that's why I go out of the country twice a year, is to remind myself you'll actually get more done if you slow down, take an hour in that week and say, I'm going to work on my business. Or take an hour of that week and say, I'm going to cut up my vegetables so they're ready to go. And the more you do that with the different areas of your life, it will help you live more of a healthy, balanced life. I mean, I need to know that a certain amount of hours a week are to my husband, so we have a healthy relationship. And it just seems like a lot of people are running around, a lot of parents, I have a almost 5 and 7-year-old. I have 2 boys. I take them to gymnastics and swimming, and I mean, they're in everything. My own hip-hop class that I go to.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so if everyone would just take a moment and just slow down, they'll actually be more productive.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think most people know that, but they might not necessarily do it. But I think a lot of people really do it because, oh, that's good advice.
Like, even if you start with 15 minutes.
Right, that's good advice.
So I'm very passionate about it. And I think it's just because it started with my dad. Sit down, Liliana.
So your dad taught you this, and you...
Of course, with a wine and a piece of cheese, a glass of wine and a piece of, relax,
That's very nice.
Relax. I don't know. I can't tell you how old I was when I started drinking that wine and piece of cheese, but, and it's taken me, till, and then when I opened my business, I actually had to get all the information that I didn't know about, because I was a great dance teacher. I was like, oh, this is going to be so easy. And I'm like, oh, wait, I need students. I need more people to come through the door. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And of course, I was a nerd. I was a biology major. So I was like, well, let me get the right information out there. And I kept on just getting that correct information, trying and testing. Let's try this. Let's do this. But at the end of the day, for those dancers to come through and get a good experience is what the whole goal is. I want to recreate the exact same experience with me. So it's not necessarily grabbing any dance teacher. Okay, great. You're wonderful. You've mastered your skill. Can you actually be an educator? What is coming out of your mouth to that 4-year-old that is going to make that 4-year-old really be comfortable? What's more important, getting, the dancer that can do a million little tricks and putting them on the front black center dot, Or is it the dancer who really needs to be on that front black center dot that's in the corner that never ever would even think that she was good enough? And that kind of stuff, that's when you're not a dance teacher, you're actually changing it. You're changing that person's life, giving them those experiences. And with the small business owners that I worked with, it's so great and it's so rewarding because they're really confident in their skill, but they don't have the confidence. They're like that girl in the corner that's afraid to come to the center. And I am trying to help them realize that it's their duty to do that because they can serve more people. And it's just been a great experience.
When I was watching your videos in preparation for the interview, I would say that overwhelmingly the children seem to be enjoying themselves. They seem to be, they're kind of like, they just seem to be, and it was fun to watch the kids, and the costumes was great, and the dance moves were great, but the kids overwhelmingly seemed, they were happy to be there, and they were doing the moves they had learned successfully, and it was fun. It was fun to watch those, actually. They were nice.
And we lose that, though. They're confident. They're like, people are like,
the
my
children
God.
seem confident.
They're
Yeah.
confident,
They were
but we lose as we grow older, especially when 9, 10, 11-year-old age hits, we lose that confidence.
Oh, I see.
And so, and then high school and then college, you have to do this and you have to do that, and society tells you what you really should be doing with your life. I have reverted back into my 4-year-old and 5-year-old brain to become great, to do anything great, and I learn, and I'm reminded with my own son now. I mean, he is a hardcore negotiator. I mean, he's going to come up and say, he wants what he wants, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get there. And we lose that part of us as we become adults. And that's one of the things I do is I remind people to go back and feel that confidence. And sometimes you just have to go for it and just don't take no for an answer.
Sure.
And I had to do that constantly. Even when we opened a Redondo location, I had to go fight at the Coastal Commission. Look, I know you think I'm by the beach, but really I'm not. And there's plenty of parking. No, you just can't do it. Well, no, I know that there's another way. No, but I'm just telling you. Well, tell me about your family. Why are you here on this earth? And to make a connection with someone. And when the other person understands why you're really here on this earth and how strong your purpose is, they will help you. And it has helped me. And that's what has helped me even with my 3rd location. And it's helping me now with my new mission. And that's to help I have a small business in Chicago that I just started working with. She's successful. She has it going on. But she's miserable because she cannot get out. She feels like, I've built this wonderful thing, but I can't leave. I can't leave to go see my kids' performance at school. To what extent do you sacrifice, So I love helping, especially those that are successful. They got the marketing and the technical skill down, but they have to work on the 3rd part, and that's the management and the systems, right? For the exit strategy. The exit strategy, that's the whole purpose, is to have fun. Is it not? Anyway, that's my purpose.
I'm on your side. I completely
You're on
agree
my
with you.
side.
I'm happy I had you on as a guest today. I like everything you have to say. By the way, at this juncture, tell us where your School of Dance and Music, the 3 schools are.
Okay, one is in Manhattan Beach. And
the name of it is?
It's Manhattan School of Dance and Music. Okay. And one is in Redondo Beach.
And the name of it?
Redondo School of Dance and Music.
I'm seeing a pattern here. I'm seeing a pattern.
Can you guess the Hermosa location name?
No, but you better tell me.
Oh, come on. It's Hermosa School of Dance and Music. And then my other business is called Kids Biz Masters, and I hold my events and seminars at the Ritz-Carlton in Marina del Rey.
Well, that sounds nice.
Yeah, and then that's the beginning of the journey.
Liliana Sommers, would you like to give us a contact website and some phone numbers?
Sure. Kidsbizmasters.com is the website for the Kids Biz business. If you do have
What's
a
that
small
once again?
Kidsbizmasters.com. So KIDS Biz BIZ Masters.com. And for the schools, it's School of Dance and Music, all spelled out. And
phone number?
And the phone numbers for all of them, well, they're all different, but
Sure.
if you go to our website, all the information is there.
Well, fantastic. You've been a fun guest. I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Brooksy, maker of fine laptop apparel, laptop covers and sleeves, iPhone covers, and unique home decor. Brooksy laptop sleeves are made to order and can be custom made to fit your computer. Just send a message with your order telling us the model and the dimensions of your laptop, and we'll make you your very own sleeve in whichever design you choose. Any of the pillow designs can be turned into laptop sleeves too. Remember, Brooksy for all your computer embellishment needs. You can find Brooksy at www.brooksy.com. That's BROKESY.com. And remember to tell them that you heard it here on LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Levi, your fitness doctor, making a personal house call, inviting you to join me Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific for my all-new show, The Dr. Levi Show. Join us as we discuss fitness, health, and well-being, including emotional and spiritual health. So don't forget to tune in to The Dr. Levi Show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on LaTalkLive.com and the Talk Live Broadcast Network. You can also catch us on iTunes, Radio R&B, or watch us on Ustream.tv, or catch us on the Live 365 network, and now on Radio Flag and Stitcher Radio. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello world, how you living? This is D. Brex, your host of the all-new rap project here on LA Talk Live. That's LaTalkLive.com. Or you can find me on iTunes Radio in the R&B section. That's the Rap Project, every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's Wednesdays at 7 p.m. West Coast time, so don't be late. On the Rap Project, I will be playing the very best of rap and hip-hop that goes beyond the ordinary. So connect with me, your host, D-Brax, the rap connoisseur, on the Rap Project every Wednesday at 7, right here on LaTalkLive.com, where we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dawn Christie inviting you to join me every Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, for my all-new show, The Dawn Christie Show. Join me as I discuss love, spiritual readings, your purpose, why am I born, what am I here to do. So don't forget to tune in The Dawn Christie Show at 1 p.m. Pacific, exclusively on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B or watch us on Ustream TV, reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. My next guest works with the popular healing substance or beverage called kombucha. Michael Faye has Kombucha Dog, probiotic healthy drink with fantastic labeling. Michael, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you, Josh. Good to be here.
You were here before, and you were a big hit, and everyone loves your beverages, so we invited you back. And once again, I think that the design of the package is just the best.
Thank you so much. That was done by Vanessa Eckstein of Block Design in Canada. We presented her kind of with a basic concept of what we wanted, and she came up with this, and it's really fantastic.
You're a professional photographer, are you not?
Yes, yeah. I was for 20 years. That was my main career, doing advertising. Worked with a lot of did sports portraiture primarily. With a lot of work on golf, Tiger Woods and Nike and things like that.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. And you took these photos yourself?
I did, yeah.
Yes.
I'm a pretty avid dog person, and was doing some pet portraiture for friends, and had started making kombucha, and I had these giant portraits around my studio, and just decided to put them on the bottle. And then this is before I had even decided to do kombucha as a business, and then it came up. It just dawned on me that the dogs should be dogs. If I was to do a product like this, that why not use dogs in need of homes?
Yeah, these are all homeless dogs, are they not?
Well, they're in foster care.
Foster care.
So they're not at a kill shelter. They're not going to be euthanized. But if one of these dogs does get adopted, the foster will go to the SPCA and get another dog from a kill shelter. So in essence, each dog that finds a home saves another dog's life.
Great.
So that's how that concept
that seems very nice as well. Now, so for my listeners who have heard the term kombucha, but they don't know quite what that means, what is kombucha?
Well, kombucha has been around for thousands of years in both Russia and Asian countries. The word kombucha, there's hundreds of different names for kombucha, Tavas and Mongol and all kinds of...
Tavas?
Tavas, yeah.
Tavas is what language?
I believe that's what they call it in parts of Russia.
Tavas.
Yep.
I see. Okay, I never heard that before. Okay.
But kombu was thought to be a Korean doctor, and cha meaning tea, so it was kombu's tea and kombucha. That's kind of the American. That's the name that most people use for it in America.
Kombucha.
Yeah.
Who's that come from again?
I believe it to be Korean.
Korean.
Yeah. There's another name for kombucha that's made with honey. I just can't remember what that is, but most kombucha in the United States is labeled kombucha.
And so is this made with honey?
Ours, not yet, but that's going to be a product line in the future. It's a spectacular product with honey. The hard thing about honey is to find an organic honey, because bees typically fly 3 to 5 miles away from the nest. Mm-hmm. So that means everything that they're getting their pollen from.
Oh, you really couldn't guarantee it
to be organic.
You couldn't right. So what's the difference between a kombucha made with honey and this is made with water? You tell me. I don't really know.
Well, kombucha is fermented tea, and so it's sugar and tea, and then it's inoculated with a specific yeast and bacteria, and that actually prevents it from going bad and starts the fermentation process.
I see.
So the sugar is very important to it, and it's kind of, people say, why is your kombucha so expensive? And one of the reasons is because the type of sugar we use is 4 times more expensive than the standard organic cane sugar. So it's raw. It's fermented with raw organic turbinado sugar. So hopefully the enzymes and all the raw properties are still alive. When it ferments, it produces a different flavor than the other sugars. So when you go from $1.22 a pound to $4 a pound, it really changes the cost of production. Sure. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a really important factor with our kombucha.
And the reason for the sweetening agent is what?
Well, you can't have fermentation without sugar. Mm-hmm. So basically, you're feeding the SCOBY, which is a socialized colony of yeast and bacteria.
That's what they call the kombucha mass.
Well, some people call it a mushroom, but it's not a fungi. So you're basically feeding this bacteria with tea, which has a lot of nitrogen in it. Also good for farming. That's why the expelled tea from the process is fantastic fertilizer. I keep trying to give the all the excess organic tea we have away to friends for their garden.
Oh, I'm sure it must be very good for sure.
Yeah.
Don't your friends realize that?
They do, and not many people have gardens nowadays. So I live downtown LA, so it's the concrete jungle a little bit. But the tea, the yeast and bacteria feed on the sugar and the nutrients in the tea and the nutrients in the water. That's why reverse osmosis water isn't the best water for making kombucha.
Oh, it isn't? I see.
No.
That's interesting to know.
There's no minerals in it, so.
And what kind of water do you use? Just good quality mineral water in glass bottles?
Well, it's kind of a touchy subject because now with fracking, we can't really secure, without doing exclusive testing on the water table, there's 450,000 oil fracking wells in this country. So we've chosen to purify city water, which has the most amount of testing on it, and not use a water that we can't have scientific data on. So
Well, that seems very fair. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely an issue. Fracking is unfortunately a problem people are starting to address, but even so, they're putting all sorts of chemicals in the ground. It's interesting, by the way, Hans Kugler is my co-host on this show, and Hans has a PhD in chemistry out of Stony Brook, and he used to work as a research chemist for Standard Oil of Indiana, so he knows the biz. He knows the biz from the inside, and he said, fracking is a legitimate way to extract minerals from the nutrients from, I shouldn't say nutrients, extract substances from the ground, but he said all you need is sand and water. You don't need the chemicals. He said the reason they're putting chemicals in the water is because it's cheaper for them to dump the chemicals in the water rather than to pay for them to be discarded properly. And when Hans said that, I thought, oh my God. In one sentence, he just went right to the heart of the matter. And it's quite remarkable. Hopefully they'll get it together in a year or two or whatever, and they'll ban the chemicals, the dumping of chemicals in the ground. Did you know that, by the way?
I didn't know that, but I knew that they did use a lot of chemicals.
But there's no reason for it. According to Hans, no. You just need water and sand and high pressure. The chemicals don't add anything. It's just a way to dump them in the earth and not pay to have them disposed of properly. How about that?
That would be great, but they're also exempt from most of the environmental.
Right.
Right.
That's another issue. You're quite right. There's another issue there.
So we use a purified city water, which we've removed the chlorine, chloramide, and the fluoride. So those are all have negative effects on the bacteria in the kombucha.
Huh?
But
so excuse me, you have some good equipment that removes fluoride. It's hard to get fluoride out of water, isn't it?
Yes, we have a specific device for it.
But it's very tough to get fluoride out of water. That's what I was told.
Well, we have using the water company that implemented our system, and then we had it tested after, and the fluoride levels were way like
good.
1/100th of what they were before the start of the process. So,
okay.
So then we do so we're basically, the sugar in the tea is basically food for the yeast and bacteria. It has two ferments. It has a yeast ferment, which produces the alcohol, and then it has a bacterial ferment, which produces the probiotics. So the longer it ferments, it actually, at a point, the bacterial fermentation is actually lowering the alcohol.
I see.
So that's one of the other issues we have, is that our kombucha is about 0.8% alcohol. And
0.8?
Yeah.
Okay.
A beer being 5%, and the definition of alcohol by the government, 0.5%. So we're kind of stuck in a definition. If we took 8 ounces of our kombucha, added 2 ounces of spring water, we would no longer be an alcohol product. If you added 2 ounces of beer to beer, you'd still have an alcohol product. So we're kind of stuck on by a definition, but we have to follow the laws because of that. So you need to be 21 to buy it. We have to sell to people with a license.
Excuse me, Michael, let me go over this again, because I missed this. So what percentage of the kombucha dog is alcohol? What percentage are you?
About 0.8.
You're 0.8. And beer is 5.0?
Yes. Most beers, 5 to 7.
5 to 7. And yours is 0.8. And what's the cutoff again?
0.5, which is interesting because for a ripe orange, if you squeeze it and measure the alcohol content, is about 0.5% alcohol.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No, I did not know that.
So You
Really?
can't get drunk on our kombucha.
You cannot?
No.
No.
Our friend Paul tried to, and we measured his blood alcohol level. Thank you, Paul, by the way. And he drank, I think, 12 of them in 1 hour.
Yes, you mentioned that last time you were on,
Oh,
and I
okay.
thought to myself, well, that's a lot of kombucha, and I'm glad
Yeah.
he didn't, expire, but good. Good.
So, but you do get, there is, after you drink one, it does have an effect, like almost like a vitamin B shot or something like that. You get a kind of an energy flow, or you do feel something, but I don't think it's the alcohol that you're feeling, because it doesn't make your brain confused.
So this is actually, the kombucha is really a traditional food that has been around for quite a long time.
A long, long time, yeah. And there's a lot of research on it in Eastern Europe that we don't have access to. It's not hasn't been translated to English, and apparently even through World War II, a lot of the research on it was in Germany that was either lost or not shared after the war. So
I see. And when I drink kombucha beverage, I'm drinking this as a fun beverage, and it's good for me. Is that it? It's good, it's fun, and it's good for me.
I drink way more than I should probably. I probably have 6 to 10 of these a day. But there is some caffeine in it, so it's slightly diuretic. So you need
a
to,
small amount of caffeine?
Yep. So you have to keep hydrated. But yeah, it is fun to drink. It has a complex flavor, not like juice or water or anything like that. And it is really good for you. So it's very a unique beverage. We've fermented ours to try. Most kombuchas that are fermented to the degree that ours is fermented has a very strong acetic flavor. So there's 2 main acids in kombucha. There's acetic acid and gluconic acid.
I see.
And acetic acid is basically vinegar. So even there's a lot of detoxifying benefits of consuming vinegar, especially a raw vinegar, we've tried to brew ours with less acetic acid and more gluconic acid. So when you taste ours, you'll notice it has a very dry flavor. It's not sweet, but it's also not extremely vinegary tasting. So it's a kind of more refined kombucha than I would guess be a good way to describe
And
it.
is the gluconic acid very healing as well, as far as you know?
Well, gluconic acid is really fantastic for your liver. It makes your liver produce glucuronic acid, which easily binds with toxins. If properly hydrated, hopefully it'll a way to dispel the toxins out of your liver. Also, your liver produces, of the 20 amino acids your body needs to survive, there's 9 essential, which you find in complete proteins. The other 11 that are essential are produced in your body. They're produced in your liver.
Oh, right.
So liver health is really important to overall health, I believe.
No, absolutely, for sure. I think most people would really agree with that right away. Now, the origin of kombucha is old. It's been around a long time. And how did you bump into kombucha as a younger man?
I had a girlfriend who introduced it to me, and she was a running athlete and a collegiate athlete, very health conscious, and she drank it. And when I first tasted it, I have to be honest, I did not like it. It was very vinegary back then, and but I started to learn to love the flavor, and then I think once you start drinking it regularly, you start to kind of crave it, and.
But you put your own stamp on it. In other words, you have your kombucha, the Kombucha Dog brand, doesn't taste like other kombuchas, right? I mean, they have different tastes. All of them, they don't taste the same, right?
No, I think other kombuchas have the ones that are fermented longer have more of a vinegary flavor, and the ones that aren't fermented very well are kind of sweeter or more diluted. If we were to make it a non-21 product, we'd have to add about 30% water to it, and then you would just have more of a diluted flavor. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's not the way I like to drink it.
Yeah, so you really see yourself as a brewmaster. In other words, this has a real taste, and you've put your stamp on it. Is that it? This is like a good beverage, but not just good for me. This has a great taste. You're proud of this.
I'm really proud of it. Yes.
Right. And how long did it take before you kind of got it down to the recipe you like?
It took 3 years. Yeah. And then once I got to the recipe that I like to make it in quantities. Right now we're producing 800 gallons a month, so it's not a lot.
It's not 800, no.
So there's about 10 10 bottles per gallon. So it's not a huge. We're still a very small company. There's only 3 people at the company. We don't have a venture capitalist corporation telling us what to do.
So if George Soros is listening, hi George, I always invoking his name. George, we have a good one here. We'd like to contribute. And is your equipment stainless steel or is it glass? I mean, is that an important concept?
It is an important concept. Food grade stainless steel. They've done many studies on it. I think the biggest thing here is that your kombucha is not fermented in plastic, because of the low acidic content. It is susceptible to leaching out of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see kombucha bottled in plastic,
it's a problem for you, right? Okay, gotcha. Seems fair.
So
yeah.
In order to brew it in stainless steel, though, you're talking about almost $1 a gallon to produce in stainless steel, more than plastic, because the stainless steel equipment we can't brew in. If you brew in these gigantic tanks, the fermentation slows way down, and the acetic acid takes over, and you don't get a good flavor. So
this is really an art form, then. I'm glad to get a sense of this. This is really an art form. Okay.
It is a little bit.
Are you there all the time, keeping an eye on your kombucha?
Well, I have a full-time brewer, Gabe, and he once we set up the procedure, he follows it to the T. We taste each batch. We make sure everything's going together. But I'm trying now to concentrate on sales, because without sales, we won't be able to stay around.
For sure, right.
So
your equipment is what in the factory? Is the factory the correct term for it? Brewery?
We are a licensed brewery, so the government considers us a beer brewery.
Huh?
And they consider this a beer, even though there's no hops, barley, or anything in it.
That's very interesting. Oh, they come look at you all the time? Like every 90 days they come check you out?
They did. The ATF showed up one day.
In their outfits? In their black outfits, really? Oh, really? No kidding. Just kind of showed up?
To see, yeah.
They break your door down, or did they knock?
They knocked, and they were very polite, but they were in uniform. So that was kind of interesting. But
so it's kind of intimidating. How many guys showed up, can I ask?
It was 4 or 5.
4 or 5 guys.
With someone from the ABC, the ATF, LAPD. They just wanted to check the facility. We were still under construction at the time.
Well, I guess that's fair. I guess they're afraid you were what? Doing something with cocaine or something there? They want to see they want to see for themselves what you're doing, right?
They did, and they came and had a pretty intensive look, and then were interested about the product, and they tasted it, and they liked it, and they were very friendly and left. So.
Okay.
But
interesting story.
Yeah. But none of the equipment we use is BPA. We're a BPA-free facility. All the hoses are natural rubber, EPDM rubber. Every ingredient is raw. The sugar is raw. Nothing. The only thing that's not raw is the tea. The tea is about 1/10%. If you were to boil the water down after the tea, you'd be just left with a little bit of tea powder at the bottom, even though it's instrumental in the fermentation process. Mm-hmm. So we cool the tea before we add the sugar to keep everything raw. All the ingredients are raw and cold pressed in our facility, and we use that in the second fermentation to create the carbon dioxide. So it's naturally carbonated.
Health-wise, I could drink, say, kind of 1 a day, kind of a good thing. You know, is that?
I think if you drank 1 a day, and after about a week or 2, you would notice your body maybe a little better attitude.
Oh, that's good. Oh, well, good attitude.
Not you particularly. I mean, everyone in general.
That's a good thing, really. Yeah. I see.
Serotonin is also produced in your digestive system. I think 80% of it is, or 70%. So it does affect your brain chemistry over time.
Yeah, people have much more respect now for the GI tract, don't they? They really they call the stomach the second brain or something like that, and that seems very fair too, and something that 15, 20 years ago no one talked about. Now everyone kind of talks about it because they realize, oh my God, there's more to us than we kind of thought before.
Yeah, there's a fantastic study if you Google swimming mice and probiotics.
Swimming mice and probiotics.
Yeah.
Sounds like a band from Australia. Okay.
Yeah, it's about how they measure the anxiety levels of mice who are fed probiotics versus not probiotics. It's quite an extensive study, and it's really if you Google it, there's about 30 or 40 different reports on it.
We're studying anxiety levels in mice?
Yeah.
This sounds like a Woody Allen movie, doesn't it?
Kind of, a little bit, yeah. But they do it by feeding a control group probiotics, and then severing the vagus nerve, which is the nerve between the digestive system and the brain.
Oh my God, separated in Vegas. That seems like that's hardcore.
And then they
They used to do
noticed
that to people, by the way. When people had bad digestion, the MDs, who are just like completely unsophisticated, would sever the vagus nerves rather than inquire as to, well, the guy's maybe a cigarette smoker, an alcohol drinker, or drinking a lot of soda and has trouble with stomach. They actually severed the vagus nerve, which was like from really an earlier century of thinking. No joke.
in a hope to what? To stop.
Improved digestion, because you cut the nerve passageway, so there was no more transmission of impulses that you were having trouble with digestion. It was actually done, unfortunately.
Oh, that's awful.
Just throw a little wrench in there. I'm sorry for that good story about the swimming depressed mice.
Yes, it is fascinating though. And we've been getting a little bit of help with PR. We were named Rachel Ray's #1 holiday gift idea.
Oh, very nice of Rachel Ray. Very good. Uh-huh.
So we're ecstatic with that. And one of the dogs on here, this dog, his name is Sonic, and it was a problematic dog in its youth and was ordered to be euthanized by a judge in San Diego. The Cesar Millan Foundation, when Cesar found out about it, he agreed.
What kind of dog is this, by the way? This is
It's a pit.
It's a pit bull.
It's a giant
bull, yeah.
pit bull. It's about 100 pounds.
It looks like it's a, kind of a heavy duty.
It's a big dog, but a really sweet dog, and she has been rehabilitated by Cesar Millan and his pack, and now she's ready to be adopted. So,
okay, well,
she's a
good
really
luck with
sweet
that.
dog.
That's I'm in favor of that, really.
Mm-hmm.
Why this dog had attacked people earlier or something?
It attacked another dog, or the other dog attacked it, and so it was deemed to be dangerous. It wasn't trained well, but now she's a really sweet dog now.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, it's a little bit about the dogs. We've had 26 different labels so far this year.
And once again, I know I say this, but really, the labels are so lovely. They're just everything you want in a nice, intelligent label. I think, wow. Have you won any awards for that label yet?
We haven't submitted it to any awards yet.
Yeah, well, I suggest you do, really. I think it's just a great label.
Thank you.
And now these are all dogs that need to be adopted.
Yeah.
And
if you go to the website, kombuchadog.com, you'll see each dog with their name and a link on how to contact the foster. That dog's name is Noel.
That's a very cute shot of this dog. Oh, my goodness.
Shy dog.
Oh, my goodness. Looks like a shy dog.
Yep.
Good for you. Oh, my goodness. A lovely shot.
But a beautiful dog. So over 20 of the 26 dogs that we've had featured on the labels have been adopted. We've photographed probably close to 45 dogs, and a lot of the dogs that didn't make the labels that we also did the photography for have also been adopted. So it's been great that way, and it's been great to meet all the people that are associated with the dogs. They're all generally really caring, great people, and it's just been a really all around a good thing to do.
Well, Michael, founder and director of Kombucha Dog, fun interview. And where can I buy the Kombucha Dog beverage?
We're in. If you go to kombuchadog.com, there's a where to buy section.
Kombuchadog.com. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and there's we're in over 50 locations in Los Angeles.
Are you in restaurants? Is that it?
Yeah, we're in a few restaurants. It's starting. As more people learn about kombucha and more people are interested in it, it seems to be more widely accepted. So there's a few places that serve it on tap.
Oh, really? Oh, that's nice.
The Vegan Bistro in Culver City, Sage Vegan Bistro have it on tap, and sometimes we do special flavors for tap that you can't buy in the bottles. So they've been fantastic.
Well, that's really a local artisan brewer, then, isn't it?
It is, and we're also available on Amazon Fresh, which is a delivery service in Los Angeles where you can get artisanal products from all over the city and have them delivered to your door in one delivery instead of going to 30 different locations. They do all the driving for you.
Wow.
And we can also ship directly now. So we just got that yesterday, that ability.
Oh, good.
From FedEx to be able
Good,
to
a
ship.
timely interview then today on Here's to Your Health.
Yes, to ship an alcohol product. So we can package it, gift wrap it, and ship it to you in time for Christmas if you would like.
That sounds good. Well, Michael from Kombucha Dog, thank you for being a guest today on my show. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
You're listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Josh Lane. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back after these important messages.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McCade's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bay back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bay Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bay Show, exclusively on LaTalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on LaTalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Dr. Lewis Logan, inviting you to join me every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 noon for Faith on the Front Line. We don't just talk about it, we are about it. That's our motto. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We highlight the issues and challenges that we face today and how faith communities and leaders make a difference. So don't forget to tune in to Faith on the Front Line, exclusively here on LA Talk Live. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B and watch us on Ustream TV. Reality radio handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Joshua Lane, member of the board of directors of Dr. Ann Wigmore's Hippocrates Health Institute, Josh Lane was part of the Dr. Ann Wigmore team that brought wheatgrass, sprouts, and raw foods to a worldwide audience. And now the host of Here's to Your Health on LA Talk Live, Joshua Lane.
We're back. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane, and my guest is the author of a book on Henry Bergh, who actually founded the ASPCA in the United States right around the time of the American Civil War. Gary Kaskel is he's a writer, a producer who has worked with Milton Berle and many others, has a long history of success, and he is an activist in the vegetarian vegan movement and involved with animal rights. Gary Kaskel, welcome to Here's to Your Health.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. And now actually, before I knew you were going to be on the show, I'd actually never heard of Henry Bergh. And I think that writing about him is actually very interesting because it does tie in the animal rights movement of today which enjoys a lot of credibility. And to tie it in with the founding part, in the middle of the 19th century, when slavery had just ended, Henry Bergh's ideas must have been considered ludicrous by many, just ludicrous. And I think it's great that you wrote a book about him.
Well, he's kind of an unknown American hero.
Yes.
He was an interesting man because he was not an activist until midlife. He was born into a wealthy family. His father was a shipbuilder, raised in Manhattan. And for the first almost 50 years of his life, he was a kind of a failed playwright, poet, and dilettante. He traveled the world when he inherited his money when his parents passed, and he and his wife kind of traveled the world. Eventually, through his socialite contacts, he met William Seward, who later became Lincoln's Secretary of State. And through that connection, he was given a diplomatic commission to the court of St. Petersburg. So he went to Russia.
So he was at the court of Russia and sent there by President Abraham Lincoln to give you some sort of sense of the time of all this.
Correct.
Right.
Now, in the meantime, the war was raging, the Civil War was raging, and when the war was over, he decided to return to America. And in doing that, he traveled. In those days, of course, you had to travel across the landmass, and he went through Europe and stopped in Spain. And as the guests of the King and Queen of Spain attended a bullfight. And he'd never seen a bullfight before, and he was really appalled by the savagery of this event. And it made him, it actually made him sick. And he learned of the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals that had existed in England since 1820. And it kind of had an aha moment where he said, I've got to go there and talk to these people because what was going on in America, there was similar things going on, not bullfights, but there was, horses were the main mode of transportation in those days. And in the heat of summer, horses would drop dead in the street. In the cold of winter, they'd be driven in snow, and it was a big problem with the general public that nobody would address. So he stopped in England and he discussed the Royal Society's charter and organization with the president of that organization, and he decided to import that model to America. So he came back to New York in 1866. And he was still an influential New Yorker who had a lot of influential friends, and he was able to get the first animal protection laws passed by the state legislature. And he got a charter. He raised money. He had fundraising parties at his mansion on Fifth Avenue, and he invited all the wealthy people that he knew and the influential politicians. And he got this legislation passed through the legislature and that charter for the first Society for the Protection of Animals. And he became its president for the next 22 years. And he was a controversial figure. A lot of people lined up with him and agreed that animals needed protection. But of course, a lot of people were against him, particularly those who profited from animals, the bus companies, the slaughterhouses, everybody that made money off the backs of work animals obviously lined up against him. And the newspapers in those days were savage about making fun of him.
Isn't it interesting, since you, besides being a filmmaker, did the background for this book, the historical research, how some things never seem to change?
Correct. It is sad.
We change, our hairstyles change, but the fighting about ideas, it always seems to be there.
It is sad that 150 years later, a lot of the issues that he was addressing are still being addressed today.
Right.
And of course, the bottom line is if you want to know about any issue, follow the money.
Yes.
So we're still fighting. People think, the general public, I think, is under the misconception that the majority of animal cruelty in America is due to neglectful pet owners, people who ignore or don't take good care of their pets. And of course, that is a problem. But the vast majority of animal suffering in this nation is institutionalized cruelty by large corporations and big institutions. Factory farms, where they cram in hundreds of thousands of animals in awful conditions, and then pharmaceutical and biomedical testing, and these, where there are literally millions of animals who suffer every day. So Henry Bergh, interestingly enough, was interested in the problems with unclean food animals, and there was a big problem with what was called swill milk in those days. Pigs were fed unboiled swill, which contains all kinds of bacteria, and that would be transmitted into calves would be fed unboiled swill, and it would end up in the milk. And there was no refrigeration in those days, and the milk would immediately be transported to homes where they would be drank by children who sometimes died. And it was a big problem. And it was because of the dairies that were unclean. And
this is 1860s still.
Yes,
yeah, okay.
1860s and 70s. And Berg really was responsible for the formation, or the impetus for the formation of the Board of Health in New York, the New York City Board of Health. And they addressed mainly food issues, foodborne illnesses.
Well, this all seems actually very interesting. You are a vegetarian?
I've been a vegan. I've been a vegetarian for 25 years, a vegan for the last 4 or 5 years. I kind of call myself a modified vegan because I'm a vegan at home.
Right.
When I eat out, occasionally I'll cheat. I won't have meat or dairy, but I'll have cake
the
or
occasional
cookies
egg or something. Okay, I got you. and you do this because you feel that you feel better, and ethically, this is the way you see it.
I feel terrific. I've always been healthy. Never had any health issues in my life, and I'm in my 7th decade.
Good for you. You look good. Good for you.
I think that it's for me, it's a dual issue of both ethics and health. That I don't eat meat, and I think that it is important that people understand how many impurities are in animal products that are consumed in this country.
But factory farming and just things that you feel are just wrong. I did notice that last week there was discussion of the voluntary reduction or reduction of use of antibiotics in farm animals and factory animals, but it was only voluntary, so it was completely toothless. It was like really of no substance whatsoever then.
Well, giant agribusiness has Congress bought and paid for. I mean,
they seem to, unfortunately.
And it's terrible because, I think there is a growing awareness in the public about the problems in animal-produced food, and that plant-based diets are becoming more and more popular.
They are.
And I think that it's important that that this be spread as far and wide as possible because, ultimately, longevity and health is something everybody wants.
Yes, people do want it,
and yet they seem to ignore the facts sometimes in pursuit of their pleasures.
Well, also they're not given good information,
right?
And so they just think, no, what I'm doing is just terribly hunky dory.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about Henry Berg is that he actually was not a vegetarian, and he had he did face an ethical issue about that, and was confronted publicly in public debates and forums about that. And it's actually in the book. The book is Monsters and Miracles, by the way.
And when did Monsters and Miracles come out?
It came out a month ago.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
And it is.
This is a painting of Henry Berg.
It is. It's a painting that hangs in the board of directors at the ASPCA in New York, in the board of directors room, and it was painted by John Wood Dodge. And it's a lovely picture. It's got, if you can see closely, he's wearing his diamond and gold encrusted shield on his overcoat.
I can see that, yes.
He was a very fancy man. He was a wealthy man, and he was always seen in public wearing a stovepipe hat and a long overcoat. And he was 6'2", so he was an imposing figure.
He's a big man for those days, 6'2".
Yes, and as his father was also. And he really kind of got off on imposing his authority to stop animal cruelty in public, and with his dozen agents from the ASPCA, went around the city and arrested streetcar drivers that were overloading the streetcars, merchants that were put horse-drawn carts that were overloaded. He would cite them, and they would have to go to court. He tried to be very high profile about it because he knew the value of publicity.
Oh, yes.
And so the newspapers picked up on his activities immediately. He became a really consequential New Yorker very shortly, and controversial also. The newspapers, there were about a dozen newspapers in those days, and they kind of lined up, pro and con for Berg's organization. And the ones that were against him really made very savage cartoons satirizing him. And they're published in the book. There's some really interesting ones from Puck and some of the other magazines of the day. And you see, you think political cartoons today are
savage,
satirical,
right,
but boy, they really didn't hold back in those days either. So he was a wonderful character, and Monsters and Miracles, I think, is a book that almost everyone can enjoy and should be read even by school children, because it's about not just a man who took up a cause, but it's about leadership. It's about how to bring a cause to action and to the public mindset. And he did that in a really skillful way. And he brought kind of a new mindset to the whole nation about how we treat animals. And our diet.
Now, let me say this also by way of context. This was absolutely a brand new concept for like 99% of everyone, right? So now we talk about this, and there are a lot of vegetarians around, and you see it on the TV, and certain celebrities might say, we don't think you should wear fur, or we don't think you should eat meat. So a lot of us have really heard this before, and we've heard the arguments, and you buy in or you don't buy in, but you've heard the arguments, and you know the arguments. But when this guy was doing it, this was absolutely, people have never heard this before. Right. And again, by way of context, we had just had a terrible civil war in the United States. More than 500,000 Americans were killed to end slavery. Right. Some people wanted slavery. Can you imagine that crowd? They wanted slavery. And so to come up then with animal rights on the tail of that, this was very revolutionary. It was just, what can I say? It was just very revolutionary.
Well, the interesting thing is that America in the latter half of the 19th century was really a brewing pot for social change. Not just the abolition of slavery and the institution of animal rights, but also later women's suffrage and the vote.
But that didn't come till the 1920 movement, didn't it?
Well, but it started in the late 1800s. Right. That movement began.
But it took such a long time,
and
as
then
things do.
Henry Bergh was also responsible for a second gigantic social justice movement, because approximately 10 years after he began the ASPCA, a church worker came to him for his help in saving a child that she knew was being severely abused by the mother. The child was heard screaming all the way down the alleyway, and nobody would do anything about it. This woman went to the police, she went to her alderman, she even went to the district attorney. And the attitude in those days was children were the property of their parents, and they could be raised any way that the parents deemed fit.
I see.
Well, the woman wanted Bergh to represent the child and take the woman to court on the animal cruelty law, saying, well, a little child is a little animal, isn't it? Shouldn't the child be protected the same as animals are? And ultimately he did go to court, and they didn't end up using the animal protection statute, but they did charge the woman, the mother, with assault and battery and take the child away. And as a result of that case, Bergh started the first Children's Protection Society, and the entire...
Also an important concept?
Yes, the entire children's protection movement was also instituted by Henry Bergh. And so we have a man that was really responsible for two really important social justice movements in this country, who's relatively obscure and unknown today.
Yes.
And I don't know why, but we're going to try and, elevate his status with the book. And
maybe Henry should have his own stamp.
I think he should.
He should have a stamp, yes, I think so.
I'm totally... I think we'll talk to the postmaster right after the broadcast.
No, a stamp seems like a very, very fair thing. In the 19th century, one of my favorite teachers of the 19th century was Sylvester Graham, the Presbyterian minister, temperance reformer, abolitionist, women's rights advocate, who was very much involved with wellness. And he was the most important wellness guy of the first half of the 19th century.
Actually, I don't mean to correct you. I think there was a Henry Bergh stamp at the 100th anniversary of the ASPCA.
Oh, there was? Oh, I did not know.
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. I have it at home. I kind of lost my memory for a minute.
Okay, well, that's I'm glad they were on top of that one then. Maybe they should bring out another one, but he does seem like an important fellow to be on a stamp.
Oh, yes. And he, he is really an interesting character psychologically. And I tried to get inside his head because I wrote this book not as a dry history, but as a novel, as a story.
Right.
Because I wanted people to understand the context under which he operated and what he was all about. And he was a very conflicted warrior, He kind of was a dilettante for the first half of his life, and he kind of felt like his life was lacking in meaning. And he wrote these kind of unsuccessful plays, and most of them were about marriages that were in distress or romances that were unrequited. And, you could tell he was kind of a lovelorn fellow. He was married. They never had children. And the irony, of course, is he never had any pets either. He never had any pets, but he's founded the first Animal Protection Society. And he never had any children, but he founded the first Children's Protection Society.
Gary, did people have pets in the 19th century?
They did. It wasn't like today.
Right.
There were house pets. There were cats and dogs. A lot of them were kind of indoor-outdoor animals. And, the domestic animal population really kind of exploded into the 20th century.
Right, right.
But they were certainly around, and they were kept as pets. They're not, the streets of New York in the 1860s and 70s, there were farm animals roaming around, sheep and cattle and pigs, and they were being transported by people, with sticks, shooing them down the street to wherever they were headed. And it was a chaotic kind of environment, but nobody thought about the welfare of these animals or whether they felt any pain or suffering as to their existence. And Berg arrested a sea captain for transporting turtles on their backs, because if they didn't transport them on their backs, they chafed their bottoms and they moved around and they weren't usable for food after they arrived.
Really? Oh.
And he didn't always win all the cases that he took to court either, and that was a case he actually lost. Based on the laws, the judge didn't deem turtles as part of the statute that protected farm animals. And so, he battled on all fronts. He had some famous adversaries like P.T. Barnum, who had an animal museum on Lower Broadway. It burned down twice because it was a wooden structure. And then he also went against Commodore Vanderbilt, a very wealthy, influential New Yorker who owned the bus lines. And he wasn't afraid to take on anybody as an adversary. But he was really a dynamic character that, that really achieved an enormous amount in 22 years. And the result of his work, of course, spread across the country very quickly, because the ASPCA in New York became replicated in almost every other jurisdiction within 50, 75 years. And there were,
That's an impressive achievement.
Oh yes, I mean he was a strategist. He understood it because he was a smart fella, and he understood how to strategize to get results.
And what animal rights groups are you involved with?
Well, I was the president of United Action for Animals in New York City for 5 years, and then I came here to the West Coast to become a director at the Humane Society of the United States, where I was for 4 years.
Oh, very nice.
So right now I decided to become an independent filmmaker and write novels and books, and I'm doing that now because I think that's my calling. I've made a couple documentaries. There's one that's online. In fact, if you go to my website, GaryKaskel.com.
GaryKaskel.com.
Yes, that's Kaskel. You will be able to not only find the links to buy the book, but also a documentary that I did called Animal People, which is a history of the animal protection movement in America from actually before the 1800s all the way to today, and an overview of the animal protection movement. And it's an interesting spectrum because, the animal protection spectrum runs from animal welfareists to animal rights people, which is, 180 degrees in terms of what the philosophies are.
Yes.
And so, animals in society are controversial, but the fact of the matter is they are still intrinsic in almost every part of our lives. I mean, from the products that build houses to the things that we eat to the pharmaceutical products and cleaning products that we use. I mean, animals are intrinsic in the usage of almost everything we do. And,
yes.
And it's, it's generally at their expense. I mean, it's, they're not really considered.
No. Now, excuse me. So you were on the board of the Humane Society?
No. I was there for 4 years. I was a producer for an event that they had called the Genesis Awards, which was an event that gave awards to the media for spotlighting animal issues in film and television. And because my background is as a filmmaker,
right.
I'm a director, cameraman, and I've been shooting video and film for 30 years, and I've been involved in television and film production. So they brought me here to work on this program and do other things for the getting the message out using celebrities, and so we did all kinds of messaging using the internet and television. And that the big organizations are very good at getting the message out because they have the resources. These issues are big national issues.
They are big national issues,
and they need to be exposed on big time. PETA, ASPCA, Humane Society of the United States, they're all out there trying to use the internet, use television, use celebrities to get these messages of these different campaigns out. I think you'll recall that the SeaWorld campaign was very successful with the documentary that was out called Blackwater. And as a result, all the celebrities are canceling their musical appearances at SeaWorld, and people are beginning to realize that captive animals in the ocean are equally suffering from.
I mean, little tiny spaces. Is that it?
Yeah, well, large animals in small spaces.
Right.
I mean, dolphins are sonic animals that are kept in cement, basically cement barriers that the noise bounces all over and drives them crazy. I mean, people don't think about that. They just want to make money off the entertainment of seeing animals perform.
So your organization has been helpful to. So that is it getting better?
Well, you're fighting very, very big money organizations that are profiting, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Circuses,
Right.
Elephants and all the other animals in the circus are equally controversial in terms of the way they're treated and caged. And these are all. Barnum and Bailey is owned by the Feld organization, which is a gigantic corporation, and all these corporations, the bottom line is how much money they can make, not the welfare of the animals that they're exploiting.
So again, even today in 2013, animal rights is still like as controversial as ever. Is that it?
Oh, I think it's more controversial than ever. I think there's more discussion. I think there's more heated discussion. And I think there's more information available now than there's ever been before, because all you have to do is Google animal cruelty or Google factory farming or any of the issues that are facing animals today. They're all out there on the internet for you just to look up and find out, because all these organizations have websites and they all have extensive information about these issues. And anybody that's interested in health and wellness for themselves should also be concerned with the bigger picture of health and wellness for the other creatures that inhabit the world.
And once again, where can we contact you? What's your web address?
My web address is GaryKaskel.com. It's GaryKaskel.com on the internet, and it has links to things about me and things where you can buy the book, and also the other major animal organizations. And I think that anybody that's interested in any of these issues can find out very quickly by going on the internet.
And again, ASPCA, you're happy with the quality of their work, and Humane Society happy with you think that these guys, these organizations are really doing quality work?
I think they're addressing the bigger picture, and it's important to address the bigger picture. There's a spectrum of animal problems from the bigger picture to the micromanagement of say pets that are homeless that need to be rehomed and end up in animal shelters and end up being euthanized because there are no homes for them.
Right.
Those people are called the rescuers, and the rescuers do a job that nobody else does. I mean, everybody has their place in the spectrum of helping animals, from the individuals to the large organizations, and they all have to work together toward the same goal, to alleviate suffering.
And this is a kind of a controversial question. So the PETA movement, which has been successful, really in making, they've been more vocal than the ASPCA, haven't they? And the Humane Society.
PETA's always been the more theatrical, more vocal.
Theatrical, yes.
Yeah, and they use theatrical tactics to get their message across. I think they're very effective at garnering support from younger people. They're very good at
Right.
In fact, they have a youth page directed just at youth. And they're part of the spectrum that needs to be heard and needs to be getting those issues out in their way. Every organization has its own culture.
Right.
And
that's very fair. Very fair, yes, I think so. Once again, Henry, Henry is the book. Where can we buy your book?
You can buy it on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and from Infinity.com, which is the publisher. It'll be in bookstores in January and February.
Great.
And I think it's an easy read. And again, it's written as a story, as a novel. It's not a dry biography. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll really get inside of Henry Bergh's head and realize that, if he can do it, I can do it. It's kind of an inspirational story. If anybody that wants to tackle a problem, it's only a matter of getting into it and doing it, because he was, even though he was an influential, wealthy New Yorker, I think that leadership is an important lesson to be learned from this book, and this book is pure Americana.
Well, Gary, thank you very much for being a guest today, and Here's Your Health. I very much appreciate it. A very interesting guy, Henry Bergh. Hopefully your book sells very, very well, and I'd like to have you back on the show once again.
I'd love to come back.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You've been listening to Here's to Your Health on the LA Talk Live broadcast network. I'm your host, Joshua Lane. Thank you for tuning in.
Hey everybody, it's your man Sabir Bay back on your airwaves, inviting you to join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Sabir Bay Show, discussing history, law, and hip-hop. Every Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the Sabir Bay Show, exclusively on LaTalkLive.com. You also can catch us on iTunes Radio and R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch us and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hi, this is Starlet Quarles, and I'm inviting you to join us every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. for a new show right here on LA Talk Live, The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People. Join us as we discuss the topics that are relevant to today's generational leaders. So don't forget to tune in to The Dialogue, Real Talk, Real People, every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. right here on LaTalkLive.com. You can also catch us on iTunes Radio R&B, Live 365, Radio Flag, and now Stitcher Radio. Or watch and listen directly at LaTalkLive.com. Reality radio, handcrafted for your listening pleasure. This is LA Talk Live, and we are more than just talk.
Hello world, how you living? This is D. Brex, your host of the all-new rap project here on LA Talk Live. That's LaTalkLive.com. Or you can find me on iTunes Radio in the R&B section. That's the rap project every Wednesday at 7 p.m.